it definitely inflated his ego. Utilizing his Rain Sharingan unique abilities, Sasuke conjured a spear forged from darkness. Infusing it with the power of Amaterasu, he enhanced the attack and propelled the spear towards the man with a flick of his hand. The spear moved with inhuman speed, its dark form blending seamlessly into the night as it silently reached its target. Piercing through the man's body, it impaled him, trapping him in place. Sasuke seized the opportunity, knowing he only needed a brief moment to strike. As the spear lodged into the man, he was driven into the ground, causing a devastating explosion that created a crater. Within the crater, black flames swiftly spread, enveloping the area. Sasuke swiftly flickered towards the man and skillfully severed both of his hands, rendering him defenseless. Despite the ferocity of the attack, the man somehow clung to life. Sasuke observed the man, blood pooling in his throat as he attempted to speak. Disregarding his feeble attempts, Sasuke employed Amaterasu once more, engulfing the man's severed arms in unquenchable flames. With his limbs incinerated, the man lost the ability to wield true Longinus. A cold gaze fixed upon the man, Sasuke's emotions were masked behind an emotionless facade. The man had insulted Yasaka, referring to her as a stupid fox and daring to kidnap her. Sasuke's smile grew as shadows began to envelop the man, as if he were being devoured. Sasuke then placed his hand on the man's head and activated Human Path. As much as Sasuke wanted to shatter the man's will to live, Yasaka was his priority. As usual, a blue soul began to emerge from the man, but also a white orb. Sasuke absorbed the man's soul, gaining his memories, but was stumped seeing this white orb. Is that his sacred gear? Sasuke thought. Upon closer inspection, Sasuke saw a spear within the orb, but it also felt alive. Is there a soul inside of it? He thought. Sasuke decided to investigate later and stored it in his shadow dimension because it was not returning to the sacred gear system in heaven. Hastening back to the building, Sasuke's pace was swift. The intense battle had consumed approximately a couple of minutes of his time, but now his sole focus was on Yasaka, lying unconscious before him. Despite his desire to admire her beauty, Sasuke's heart ached at the sight of Yasaka in such a vulnerable state. With a sense of urgency, Sasuke gently released the restraints from Yasaka's arms and legs. Hoping for a response, he whispered, "I am here, Yasaka," desperately longing for any sign of awakening. However, Yasaka remained still, unresponsive to his words. The deafening silence haunted Sasuke as he reached out, his hand gliding softly across her face. "Please, Yasaka, wake up," he pleaded, unwilling to lose someone so dear to him once again. Kneeling down beside her, Sasuke grasped Yasaka's arm, his voice trembling with emotion. "I know you are strong, Yasaka. We have a promise to fulfill," he choked on his words. "You promise to love me and not hate me for all the sins I've committed, Yasaka," Sasuke said. Clenching his fists, Sasuke sensed the approach of someone else. His shadow knight emerged, dragging along an unconscious and battered man. "My liege, I have completed your orders," the knight announced. Sasuke, consumed by his grief, simply nodded. "Return to the shadow dimension with him and make him wish for death," he declared, devoid of any emotion. The knight responded, "Will she become my queen, my liege?" Sasuke nodded, his hand tenderly caressing Yasaka's face with love. "Well, I will obey your command to the fullest and make him yearn for death," the knight affirmed. With that, the man and the shadow vanished in a swirling mist of black. With tender care, Sasuke lifted Yasaka in a gentle princess carry, his arms cradling her delicate form. As he held her close, a mix of fear and doubt lingered in his heart, unsure of when Yasaka would awaken from her unconscious state. However, he refused to lose hope. Harnessing the power of his space-time jutsu, Sasuke opened a portal that would lead them back to Yasaka's home. Stepping through the portal, his grip on Yasaka tightened, cherishing her presence with every step. As they emerged on the other side, a familiar figure, Amaterasu, greeted them warmly. "You've returned!" Amaterasu exclaimed with genuine happiness. "I'm so relieved." Her words brought a faint glimmer of comfort to Sasuke's weary soul. In his usual monotone tone, Sasuke shared the details of the encounter with the Hero faction, a group associated with the Chaos Brigade. However, his sadness seeped into his voice as he confessed, "She still hasn't woken up, Amaterasu." He longed for a solution, hoping that Amaterasu might have an answer to Yasaka's prolonged slumber. /N, Sasuke will be obtaining Annihilation Maker. Vote by commenting what to do with True Longinus. Also Yasaka will be CONCES soon, definitely not a long period. Keep it as Sasuke needs a new weapon. Return to original owner CAO. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 22, Yasaka's Condition. With the utmost care, Sasuke gently laid Yasaka on her bed, ensuring her comfort. Amaterasu, sensing Yasaka's condition, approached her and guided her divinity through Yasaka. As she assessed Yasaka's state, Amaterasu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. "Fear not, Yasaka will undoubtedly awaken," Amaterasu reassured Sasuke, bringing a glimmer of hope to his heart. Eager for more information, he inquired, "When will she wake up?" Amaterasu, still focused on monitoring Yasaka's condition, paused momentarily before responding, "The ordeal she endured has depleted her magical reserves significantly. She needs time to recover, but the process inflicted on her has complicated her healing." Since Yasaka has a connection to the ley line, they siphoned mana between the ley lines and whatever medium they need large amount of mana for. Sasuke's fists clenched in frustration, his expression reflecting his disdain for what Yasaka had suffered. "So, she will recover, but we're uncertain about the duration, given the forceful manner in which her mana was drained because they wanted to open a portal for Great Red," Sasuke remarked, dissatisfied with the cruelty inflicted upon Yasaka. Amaterasu nodded in agreement. "Indeed, she will recover. In the meantime, I will handle the aftermath and attend to the needs of the yokais under Yasaka's care." "Please, take good care of her," Amaterasu requested, her voice filled with a sense of responsibility as she made her exit from the room. Sasuke pulled up a chair and positioned it next to Yasaka's bed, taking a seat beside her. Tenderly, he clasped her hand, feeling the smoothness of her skin and noticing how small it seemed compared to his own. A sigh escaped his lips as he wondered why his life always seemed to be plagued by obstacles. He couldn't help but entertain the thought, perhaps if we had never crossed paths, Yasaka, you wouldn't have found yourself in this difficult situation. In a hushed voice, he acknowledged the reversal of their roles, realizing that it was now his turn to care for her. "It seems our roles have been reversed, Yasaka. This time, I will be the one looking after you," he whispered gently. Sitting there, Sasuke contemplated his plans to return to his original home world and bring his family back to this realm. However, he understood that those plans would have to be put on hold for the time being. He silently hoped that when the opportunity arose to reunite his loved ones in this world, Yasaka would be conscious and they will be able to witness the person who had played a significant role in helping him find happiness. Sasuke's thoughts turned to Yasaka's innate chakra, recognizing that although it differed from the chakra used by shinobi who employed hand seals to perform jutsu, it still held potential. With a determined resolve, he decided to gather a small portion of his own Six Paths chakra and direct it towards Yasaka. Delicately, Sasuke began to guide the sliver of the Six Paths chakra, intertwining it with Yasaka's own chakra. As he merged the two energies together, he expressed his sincere intentions. "I know I haven't fulfilled my promise yet, but I will aid in your strength. I don't want you to endure such hardships again," he said with genuine care, his hand gently caressing Yasaka's cheek. Sasuke devised a plan to gradually infuse Yasaka with his chakra throughout her recovery process, hoping that it would expedite her awakening and also grant her newfound strength. He was determined to help her awaken not only as her former self but as a stronger individual. Sasuke sensed the approach of someone and recognized it as Yasaka's assistant, likely coming to provide her with the necessary medical treatment while she remained in a coma. Though Sasuke had briefly met the assistant before, he currently wished to avoid interacting with strangers. He was still unfamiliar to the yokais under Yasaka's leadership, and he didn't want them to label him a hero solely for saving their leader. Choosing to retreat to his seclusion, Sasuke returned to the room he had been using. Despite his efforts to remain hopeful, the fact that Yasaka hadn't awakened yet weighed heavily on him. Nevertheless, he firmly believed that she would overcome this ordeal. As he sat alone in contemplation, he considered a way to finally return to his old home world. I possess the power of my Rain Sharingan now, which should enable me to leave this world easily, Sasuke murmured to himself. However, he understood that the situation was not as straightforward as it seemed. If I were to depart from this world, I might not be able to re-enter due to dimensional restrictions, he pondered. Even if he had obtained the coordinates of all the realms within this world, re-entry would likely prove challenging. Sasuke began to delve into his thoughts, acknowledging that his comprehension of space surpassed that of most individuals in this world. He realized that with his Rain Sharingan, he could potentially create a pathway through space that only he could access with his DxD, providing him with a means to return to his original world. Sasuke diligently gathered all the scrolls and books related to space-time manipulation, immersing himself in their contents once again. He recognized that the integration of magic, which was spiritual energy, in the form of chakra, would hold the key to his plan. Harnessing the power of his dojutsu, Sasuke began to construct a specific magic circle designed for teleportation. As a purple circle materialized, adorned with the Uchiha crest, Sasuke carefully analyzed it, recognizing it as a fundamental space magic technique. Suddenly, a realization struck him: the existence of permanent teleportation points scattered throughout all the realms within this world. These points required a sufficient supply of magic to activate, but once activated, they offered a stable means of transportation. A chuckle escaped Sasuke's lips as he grasped the solution to his predicament. With this newfound knowledge, he not only had a way to return to his original world but also the means to bring his family along. Through Amaterasu's abilities, she could bring their inanimate bodies back to life. A/N, I appreciate all the feedback from yesterday vote. Next chapter: Yasaka will awake. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story, Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 23, Chapter 23, Way Back Home and Yasaka Awaken. Sasuke formulated a plan to facilitate his return to his original world. He understood the importance of establishing an anchor point in the current world, a designated location where he could create his unique space-time channel. Drawing inspiration from the lines he had observed in the dimensional gap, he realized that magic circles also relied on anchor points for teleportation. However, he remembered the Flying Thunder God techniques. He realized the two had similar principles. Sadly, he didn't know anything about the technique the second and fourth Hokage used. He could only depend on his great affinity for space. With this insight, Sasuke resolved to modify a magic circle to suit his specific chakra signature, transforming it into a beacon that could serve as a teleportation point beyond this world. Only someone with the Rincharigan and six-path chakra could use the magic circle to create a portal once he modified it to his needs. However, Sasuke knew all of this was just a hypothesis, but it was the best solution he could think of. Sasuke, satisfied with his plan, stated, "This will take some time." Which is good because Yasaka hasn't awakened yet. Over the span of 2 weeks, Sasuke dedicated himself to conducting trials in his pursuit of creating an anchor point, yet all of his attempts ended in failure. However, amidst these setbacks, Sasuke discovered a silver lining. Utilizing his Rain Sharingan, he was able to perceive the faults and fluctuations within the magic circle when it was activated, gaining valuable insights for future attempts. Throughout this time, Sasuke diligently shared his six paths chakra with Yasaka, believing that it made her considerably stronger. Encouragingly, signs began to emerge that Yasaka was on the verge of waking up, as her depleted reserves appeared to be gradually replenishing, likely due to Sasuke's chakra infusion. Finally, on the third week, Sasuke achieved success. He successfully created a portal and tested it using a shadow clone, allowing him to journey back to his own world and return unharmed. Grinning with satisfaction, Sasuke's emotions began to resurface since Yasaka had fallen unconscious. He yearned for her to witness the changes within him. With the achievement of his goal to traverse between worlds, Sasuke swiftly departed from his secluded training ground and hastened to Yasaka's room. Sasuke took a seat on the chair beside Yasaka's bed, tenderly holding her hand. He reluctantly acknowledged that these 3 weeks had taken a toll on his mental state. Finding a way to return to this world had served as a distraction, but deep down, his main concern was Yasaka's condition. Every day, Sasuke faithfully remained by Yasaka's side, sharing with her the details of his daily activities. Sometimes, he would open up about himself as well. Speaking to her about his accomplishments and daily routine, he expressed his growing distress at seeing her remain unconscious. "It's been almost a month now, Yasaka. It's becoming increasingly painful to witness you in this state," Sasuke pleaded. These were the words he would often utter during his visits to Yasaka over the past 3 weeks before he departed. As Sasuke was preparing to leave once again, he suddenly heard something, his name being uttered. "Sasuke," Yasaka murmured in a hoarse voice. Surprised, Sasuke looked around and locked eyes with Yasaka, who had managed to open her eyes with some difficulty. Reacting swiftly, Sasuke moved closer, gripping her hand tightly to assure her of his presence. "I am here, Yasaka," he whispered slowly, aware of her disorientation. Although she was still groggy, Sasuke's overwhelming happiness was evident. "Finally, after all this time, you've awakened, Yasaka," Sasuke thought to himself. He concluded that the best course of action would be to contact Amaterasu. Creating a communication magic circle, Sasuke reached out to her. "Sasuke, is there something you need?" Amaterasu inquired with curiosity. Sasuke replied, "Yasaka has just woken up. It would be best if you could examine her to ensure her health is good." After ending the call, Sasuke turned his attention back to Yasaka, who was staring at him. "I'm sorry for causing you worry, Sasuke. We even made a promise," she expressed with a hint of sadness. Sasuke simply chuckled and gently caressed her forehead. "That doesn't matter anymore. We can still fulfill our promise in the future," he reassured her. Yasaka's eyes welled up with tears. "I'm sorry, Sasuke. If I wasn't so weak, I wouldn't have been captured. They held my people hostage, and even with the ley line, I couldn't stand against that Longinus user," she confessed, placing the blame on herself. Sasuke let out a sigh, observing Yasaka's self-blame. "Everyone makes mistakes, Yasaka. I'm a perfect example of that. If you want to grow stronger, you need to move forward and take action. I'll assist you in any way I can," Sasuke reassured her. Sasuke understood that Yasaka had been defeated due to her people being held hostage, and he couldn't fault her for that. The Longinus guy was undoubtedly formidable, even by ultimate class standards. Then, he remembered that he had 2 sacred gears locked up in his shadow dimension. Sasuke thought to himself, "Well, my knight is certainly giving him a hard time. I'll visit soon." With Yasaka awake, Sasuke knew it was time to focus on bringing his family back to life. He understood that planning and integrating his family into this world would be a necessary step. He was aware of the upcoming Gods Summit, which was scheduled to take place in 4 years. "I'm already confident in my strength, even with Itachi here. Our clan is already a formidable force. I suppose I'll have to engage in some grave robbing back in Konoha. It won't just be my parents and brothers that I'll revive, but who else should I bring back? Sasuke pondered. He then added, perhaps Shisui and Izumi. I had a close bond with them compared to others in the clan. Sasuke couldn't help but chuckle as he reminisced about Shisui's sense of humor. He truly missed him. A/N, I have no idea where Shisui's body is, so I'll make something up. I understand that the reanimation jutsu requires a small amount of the person's genetic material. Since Itaka used Shisui's eye to break free from Kabuto's control, where is Shisui's eye? Orochimaru created a fake Uchiha, Shin, in Boruto. Perhaps he has a Shisui body and used all of the eyes Obito had in the hideout to create them. Only 7 people getting revive: Itaki, Fugaku, Mikoto, Shisui, Izumi, Minato, and Kushina. As the title said, Uchiha family not clan, and Sasuke was small during the massacre. I doubt he interacted much with the clan members. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story, Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 24, Chapter 24, Confession. Amaterasu arrived swiftly as her Miko, Yasaka, was finally awake. Amaterasu couldn't help but sigh as she realized that the Cows Brigade, a troublesome group, was causing trouble across all realms. They had even attacked the country she governed with her pantheon. If it weren't for Sasuke's intervention, their plans would have succeeded, and Yasaka would have faced unknown dangers. Amaterasu utilized her divinity to check Yasaka's body completely, and she was in full health. However, she sensed something new within Yasaka's chakra. It was potent and strong. Amaterasu realized that Yasaka's strength had greatly increased. This was excellent news for her, as now she had more capable individuals to help protect Japan. As Amaterasu glanced at Sasuke, who was about to speak, he instinctively placed a finger on his lips, silencing her. Amaterasu could only smile helplessly. These two lovebirds had yet to express their feelings for each other. She had become a major shipper for them, but they seemed to be moving at a frustratingly slow pace. Even she felt the urge to smack both of them on the head to speed things up. Amaterasu stayed with Yasaka for a little while, assuring her that her people were safe and that she had taken care of any issues that arose during her absence, with the help of Yasaka's assistant. Eventually, Amaterasu decided it was time to leave and give Sasuke and Yasaka some alone time. As Amaterasu departed, she winked at Sasuke, causing him to feel the urge to facepalm. This goddess was clearly trying to push their relationship forward, but Sasuke knew that he was the one who was holding things back. Then, he heard Yasaka's words, "Sasuke, I want my people to see you as a hero. After all, you saved me." Her eyes expressed love and a desire for his approval. Sasuke wanted to decline strongly, thinking to himself, being a hero is Naruto's job. I prefer to stay in the shadows. He sighed, realizing that Yasaka was lovingly asking for his permission. Fine, but I hope I won't have to deal with people swarming around me, Sasuke reluctantly agreed. Sasuke, come lie next to me in bed. I want to cuddle with someone, Yasaka shamelessly asked, accompanied by a smile. Sasuke didn't hesitate and made his way to the bed, settling down beside Yasaka. She turned towards him, snuggling closer to his chest, and took his hands, wrapping them around her body. During this week, while you can freely move around, I will fulfill my promise and show you my past. If my actions make you stop loving me, I won't blame you, Sasuke whispered, dreading the memories of his past, especially his younger self. He made a mental note to omit the scene where Naruto accidentally kissed him. Yasaka smiled, knowing she would never hate Sasuke. After all, he had saved her. Feeling bold, she moved closer to Sasuke's face. Lost in his thoughts about cursing Naruto's stupidity, Sasuke felt a soft sensation on his lips. Sasuke scoffed for a second, but he reciprocated the kiss. Yasaka's lips were soft and sweet as Sasuke kissed her back. He was taken aback by the unexpected gesture but couldn't resist the temptation to savor the moment. As they parted, Sasuke felt a rush of emotions he had never experienced before. He couldn't believe that someone like Yasaka could make him feel so alive. Sasuke, being bold, grabbed Yasaka and brought her on top of him. As Yasaka straddled Sasuke, she pushed her soft breasts into his chest, squishing them against him. Sasuke couldn't help but feel a surge of desire as he gazed at her curves pressed up against him. He ran his hands over her body, feeling the softness of her skin and the gentle rise and fall of her breasts with each breath. It was a moment that he never wanted to end. Sasuke then held Yasaka's head and gently brought her face to his. With a hint of hesitation, their lips met. But it was only a moment before Sasuke deepened the kiss, causing Yasaka to moan in pleasure as she arched her back and pressed herself closer to him. Their tongues found their way into each other's mouths, dancing and exploring each other with fiery passion. It was an intense moment that seemed to last forever as they lost themselves in the ecstasy of the moment. While kissing Yasaka, Sasuke gently glided his hands down her back, exploring every inch of her body. He felt her shiver with pleasure as his fingers traced the curve of her waist, then moved down to grip her hips tightly. As their kiss deepened, Sasuke's hands traveled lower, pressing firmly against the smooth skin of Yasaka's thighs. She moaned softly into his mouth as he lifted her up, wrapping her legs around him and deepening their embrace. Sasuke couldn't get enough of Yasaka's taste and scent as they kissed passionately, lost in the heat of the moment. Sasuke pulled back after a passionate moment because he didn't want to lose control. Yasaka may be strong, but she had only just awoken from an unconscious state. Sasuke locked his gaze on Yasaka, whose eyes were moist with desire for more of Sasuke's touch. However, Yasaka knew Sasuke was holding back due to her coming out of a coma. Especially due to his raging member against her tummy. She couldn't help but smile, as she knew Sasuke was enjoying it as much as she did, particularly when he trailed his hands by her thighs. In a spontaneous burst of emotion, Yasaka exclaimed, "I love you, Sasuke." While Sasuke already knew of Yasaka's love for him, hearing those words spoken in the midst of their passionate encounter deeply moved him. He realized that regardless of his past actions, Yasaka would always love him. Gently touching her cheek, Sasuke whispered, "I love you too, Yasaka." /N, no chapter tomorrow. I will be fixing the pacing of the following chapters as it felt really slow before Sasuke returned to his world. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 25, Chapter 25, Memories. A week had passed since Yasaka's recovery, and she had gradually resumed her responsibilities as the leader of the yokai. She proudly introduced Sasuke as her savior to her people. As Sasuke had predicted, the yokai's reaction was troublesome. They treated him like a hero, making it difficult for him to move around in public areas without drawing too much attention. Understanding Yasaka's good intentions, Sasuke knew it would be easier to announce to her faction that he was her lover. During the week, Yasaka had noticed an increase in her strength. She was on the verge of a breakthrough, nearing the Satan/Minor God class rank. Curiosity brimming within her, she couldn't help but ask Sasuke, "Sasuke, did you make me stronger?" Sasuke chuckled at her reaction and playfully poked her forehead with his fingers. He replied, "I did help you become stronger. But you don't need to feel obligated to thank me. I did it willingly. With this boost, you now have a solid foundation to further enhance your abilities." Yasaka was at a loss for words, feeling a mix of gratitude and amazement. *******. Both Sasuke and Yasaka could be seen in her bedroom. In the moment, she was trapped in a genjutsu, evident by the spinning Sharingan in her eyes. After a while, the world created by Sasuke shattered like a broken mirror, and they found themselves back in the real world. Yasaka's eyes were filled with tears, and she couldn't help but hiccup between her sobs. "You've been through so much, Sasuke, she said sadly. Sasuke's response was a simple HN. His emotions were not clearly visible, but his eyes darkened as he recalled the memories of the massacre. The bloodstains across the entire compound, the crimson moon, and the countless times Ataka trapped him in Tsukiyomi, forcing him to witness the scene of their clan's slaughter. That was my life before I met you. I'll admit, my mind was not sane, and my actions. Sasuke trailed off. Yasaka placed a hand on Sasuke's cheek, her touch gentle and comforting. Your actions are justifiable, she reassured him. To witness your entire family die in one night, at the hands of the one you admired, would drive anyone to the brink of madness. A small smile formed on Sasuke's lips as he held Yasaka's hand that rested on his face. He spoke softly, gratitude lacing his words, "Thank you." Sasuke knew that Yasaka was the reason he felt alive, bringing light to the darkness that had consumed him. Sasuke continued, his voice filled with sincerity, "When I came to this world, I was filled with self-doubt about my future. I am still a rogue shinobi in my world, and the cages definitely do not hold me in high regard since I joined the Akatsuki." He paused briefly before continuing, "I would have isolated myself from the shinobi world if I hadn't met you. I had no plans or goals, but now I have dreams, and that is to be with you." Yasaka turned herself around and leaned against Sasuke's chest, seeking comfort in his embrace. She spoke softly, her voice filled with understanding, "Your brother is a really confusing person." Sasuke couldn't help but chuckle at her comment, finding solace in her presence. "Yes," he admitted, his voice tinged with a hint of sadness. He let out a sigh, his thoughts filled with a mix of emotions. "I was young, so I had no clue about the depths of isolation my clan faced. The village pushed us into a corner, and with Shisui's death, the rage within the clan members grew." He clenched his hand tightly, his eyes reflecting the pain that dwelled within him. "I wish my brother didn't have to become the executioner," Sasuke said, his voice filled with a mix of anguish and regret. A single tear trailed down his cheek as he questioned, "He did it to save me. I wish he didn't have to make that sacrifice. Just why?" Yasaka remained silent, understanding the weight of Sasuke's words and the turmoil in his heart. She offered her comfort, her presence a soothing balm to his wounded soul. Sasuke's entire life had been a surreal journey, driven by the pursuit of vengeance that ultimately turned out to be based on falsehoods. "Thanks for being here, Yasaka," Sasuke expressed his gratitude. Yasaka nodded in response, her presence offering him comfort and support. She then brought up Naruto, stating, "Naruto is a really interesting person. Your incarnation brother, who fought in every generation." "Haha, yes, that dope," Sasuke chuckled, his tone filled with a mix of fondness and exasperation. "Both you and him played a significant role in shaping and helping me escape from destruction. He's incredibly annoying and has a big mouth, but he's someone I admired since we were young. I suppose we both did." He knew their bond went beyond rivalry and friendship, it was a connection forged through shared experiences and mutual understanding. Naruto's unwavering determination had always impressed and influenced Sasuke. "Hehe, it seems blondes are attracted to you," Yasaka teased, enjoying Sasuke's reaction. His expression hardened slightly as he muttered, "Please, don't continue." Sensing his discomfort, Yasaka affectionately kissed his cheek, reassuring him, "I'm just joking. I do hope to meet him someday." Sasuke rolled his eyes in response. "I have found a way to return to my home world and retrieve my arm. When I spoke to Amaterasu, she offered a method to bring my family back to life," he explained. Yasaka, unsure of how to react, cautiously replied, "So, you will be going back?" Sasuke's gaze softened as he looked at her. "Of course, but my place is by your side. Konoha is no longer a suitable home for the Uchiha clan." Feeling a sense of relief, Yasaka sighed and then asked, "Is it the reanimation jutsu used in the Fourth Shinobi War, I saw in your memories?" Sasuke nodded in confirmation. Yes, Amaterasu hopefully has a way to restore their bodies and bring them back to life. Yasaka couldn't contain her genuine happiness. That's amazing, Sasuke. I'm truly glad you'll have the opportunity to be reunited with your family. Sasuke's expression brightened, grateful for Yasaka's support. Everyone in the Shinobi world believes that the Uchiha clan is extinct. Since this world has no knowledge of my clan, my family can integrate seamlessly, he added. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 26, Lifespan Issue. As Sasuke made his way towards Amaterasu, he reflected on the memories he had obtained from the true Longinus user. The man's name didn't matter to him, what mattered were the revelations he had learned. This man turned out to be the leader of the hero faction, aligned with the Chaos Brigade. The Chaos Brigade itself was composed of multiple factions, including the descendants of the four great Satans. The leader is none other than the infinite dragon god, Apis, Sasuke muttered to himself. What a foolish dragon god, allowing these rogues to act in its name, and it seems the faction is seeking a way to enhance their power through Apis. Sasuke was relieved that he had concealed his entire chakra signature from the powerful beings the moment they became aware of his presence. Fortunately, the method I devised to return to the Shinobi world ensures that no one can detect the spatial fluctuations. ******. Sitting in front of Amaterasu, she teasingly asked, "So, did you and Yasaka become a couple?" Sasuke rolled his eyes in response. "Yes, we did. Anyway, I will be returning to my former home world to retrieve my arm and reunite with my family." Amaterasu, upon hearing his statement, replied, "I will assist you with your family. You have already helped my pantheon, and now with the knowledge that Apis is the leader, you are a valuable ally." Her tone then turned serious as she continued, "You are aware of the lifespan issue between you and Yasaka, aren't you?" Sasuke sighed and replied, "Yes, I have considered various ways to achieve immortality, but they are certainly not moral." Amaterasu then stated, "Since you first arrived in this world, your strength has grown significantly, particularly your eyes." Sasuke raised an eyebrow, curious about her point. "And what about it?" he asked. She responded, "I previously mentioned that there is divinity within your eyes, and now your entire body emits a godly aura. I have a solution to address your lifespan issue." Intrigued, Sasuke leaned in and said, "Go on." "Become a god," she said. Sasuke was taken aback and didn't particularly like the idea. "Please continue," he replied, wanting to hear more. Amaterasu elaborated, "Well, you would become a demigod. You and I share the same divinity associated with the sun, especially the flames you wield." Sasuke grasped the concept a bit, finding the idea of being a demigod more appealing. "I understand. So, how can I become a demigod?" Amaterasu's face brightened with satisfaction. "Through me, of course." Sasuke narrowed his eyes, skeptical of her proposition. "I haven't even done it with Yasaka yet, so no thanks," he firmly stated. Amaterasu blushed, realizing her unintended implication. "No, I didn't mean through sex. I will bestow my blessings upon you, and you will undergo an evolution," she clarified. Though she thought, "Love is not for me anymore," she couldn't help but steal glances at Sasuke, thinking, he is really handsome and strong. Unaware of Amaterasu's thoughts, Sasuke contemplated the method she suggested. "What are the cons?" he inquired. "There aren't many since you will retain your human side. However, I cannot guarantee how god-killing weapons might affect you," Amaterasu explained, pushing aside her own thoughts. "I agree. Once I return from my world, we will proceed with your suggestion," Sasuke expressed his appreciation. "You have been a great help, Amaterasu. Despite being an otherworlder, you are allowing me to reunite with my family and stay with Yasaka forever," he added, praising her. Amaterasu couldn't quite grasp why she was going out of her way to assist Sasuke. Was she intrigued by him, or was their connection somehow tied to their shared divinity? She glanced at Sasuke once again and let out a sigh. Yasaka already had him, and she would just have to accept it. "I'm not entirely sure either. Having your family as our allies is a great advantage, and I'm grateful for that," she responded. Sasuke nodded and rose from his seat. "I'll be gone for less than a week. I'll see you later then," he said before taking his leave. Amaterasu leaned back in her chair, covering her face with a slight blush. Suddenly, Yasaka appeared before her with a knowing grin. "You seem rather red," she said, smiling mischievously. Yasaka, noticing Amaterasu's growing flustered, teased, "Who would have thought a major god could blush so easily from a little teasing," she said playfully. Amaterasu responded sadly, "I am too old for love, Yasaka. Please, stop." Yasaka embraced Amaterasu, their bond spanning many years even when her mother was Amaterasu's previous Miko. Amaterasu had watched her grow up, and Yasaka had always admired her as her Miko. "I don't care if Sasuke had a harem. It's not uncommon for powerful beings to have multiple partners. However, he is different. He doesn't seek out lovers, and if he were to have more, he would treat each one equally. He's a great person, and I want what's best for him. If you have feelings for him, I have no objection. But others will need our approval," Yasaka spoke with seriousness. Amaterasu let out a sigh and wondered, would he even reciprocate my feelings? "I've been helping him, but I did have some ulterior motives to get closer to him by giving him my blessing." Yasaka smirked and replied, "I'll bring it up with him in the future. But for now, I want Sasuke all to myself." "You'll have to wait," she said, smiling mischievously. Amaterasu replied, "You vixen." Yasaka chuckled, "Hee, I can wait for Sasuke to fuck me," she said shamelessly. Amaterasu, not caring for her antics, "Well, go then. You told me he does not understand relationships well. Take the initiative as seducing is your specialty." Yasaka narrowed her eyes, "Mao, those horny men were just annoying, and playing with them was fun. I am still a pure woman, Sasuke will get all my firsts." A/N, 2 chapter left for this volume. Then Sasuke returns to his world and revive his family. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 27, Chapter 27, Yasaka Seduction R18. In a bedroom, Yasaka could be seen waiting for someone, specifically Sasuke. After listening to Amaterasu's advice, she dressed for the occasion of letting Sasuke have his way with her. She dressed in golden lingerie, which barely even hid her ample breasts. Laying on the bed with her two legs spread, she muttered, "I wonder what reaction Sasuke would have." Not having to wait long, Yasaka had a seductive smile as Sasuke opened the door. As soon as he walked in, Yasaka was waiting for him in a seductive position, showing off all her womanly assets. He was lost for words, and his throat felt dry as he subconsciously swallowed. Yasaka, seeing Sasuke, walked up to him, her hips swaying gently from side to side as she made her way. She placed her hand on his chest, leaning in close to whisper in his ear, "Sasuke, I've been waiting for you." Her warm breath sent shivers down his spine as he struggled to find the right words. His heart raced as he felt her hand slowly move from his chest down to his waist, pulling him closer. "It seems I have made you wait too long," Sasuke said, but he could not stop smiling. "Hee, you did," giggled Yasaka. Sasuke gazed at Yasaka's body, appreciating it, and cheekily said, "You look beautiful, dear." Yasaka blushed and said, "That was way too corny." Sasuke chuckled, his eyes never leaving Yasaka's face. "Maybe, but it's true," he said, leaning in closer. He could feel the heat of her cheeks against his lips as he pressed a gentle kiss on them. Yasaka melted into his arms, her fingers running through his hair as their embrace deepened. Their lips met with a softness that spoke volumes of their love. Sasuke's lips nibbled tenderly on Yasaka's, sending tingles down her spine. The sensation made her heart flutter, and she responded by parting her lips, inviting him deeper into their passionate embrace. Their tongues danced in perfect harmony, exploring each other's mouths with tenderness and longing. Every kiss carried the purest expression of their love, leaving them breathless and lost in each other's presence. Sasuke lifted Yasaka with his only hand and placed her on the bed. He stood over Yasaka as his lips trailed a path of soft kisses down her neck, eliciting a shiver of pleasure. Slowly, he moved lower, brushing his lips against her tummy, leaving a trail of warmth in their wake. Yasaka's breath hitched as anticipation built within her. Finally, their lips met again in a fiery and passionate kiss, sealing their desire for each other in that moment. Yasaka moved one of her hands and placed it over Sasuke's trouser, feeling the bulge of his raging hard-on. She could feel his arousal, and it only fueled her own desire. Yasaka's fingers traced the outline of Sasuke's hardness, causing him to let out a low growl of pleasure. "It seems you need help down there," Yasaka said in a soft whisper to his ears. Slowly, Yasaka undid his trousers, revealing his throbbing member. Gently, she took hold of him, her touch sending waves of pleasure through his body. Every stroke from her skilled hand brought him closer to the edge. "Hehe, I'm going to make you feel even better," Yasaka joked. She slid her panty to the side, revealing her wet pussy to Sasuke. "I've been soaked since you walked in. Will you take responsibility?" she asked with lust. "It seems I don't have to wait for the main course," Sasuke said, taking off his last piece of clothing. Yasaka lingered over Sasuke's body. "You shouldn't keep a lady waiting then," she said, trailing her finger over his abs. Sasuke smirked and moved to Yasaka's entrance. He entered Yasaka with slow trust. "Ahn, Sasuke, go further, I want everything," she said between gasps. Sasuke obliged and started thrusting with more intensity. Yasaka's breasts bounced as his movements became quicker and more forceful, driving her wild with pleasure. She arched her back and clutched the sheets, completely surrendering to the sensations coursing through her body. Sasuke, unable to resist her pleads, continued to give her everything she desired, pushing them both to the brink of ecstasy. "I am close, Yasaka," grunted Sasuke, feeling the insides of Yasaka tighten around him. I am too. Let us come together," moaned Yasaka. They moved in perfect sync, their bodies intertwined and consumed by a shared passion. Yasaka tightened her arm around Sasuke's back, holding him even closer as the climax neared. With a final surge of pleasure, they both reached their peak, exploding into a wave of intense pleasure. Sasuke released his seed deep inside Yasaka, filling her with his essence. As they rode the waves of ecstasy, Yasaka's tightened grip on Sasuke only intensified, ensuring that every last drop was claimed as their own. Breathing heavily, Sasuke and Yasaka collapsed into each other's arms, basking in the aftermath of their intimate encounter. Their lips still tingled from the passionate kiss that had sparked their desire. As the intensity of their love-making subsided, Yasaka whispered softly in Sasuke's ear, "I love you." Sasuke's heart swelled with emotion as he saw Yasaka's love shining through her eyes. "I love you too," he whispered back. Yasaka smiled and made her way on top of Sasuke. "It is my turn now," she said as she lowered herself, determined to bring Sasuke even more pleasure. As she moved rhythmically, the room filled with their moans and gasps. Their bodies moved in synchrony, rising and falling with each passionate thrust. Sweat beaded on their skin as the heat between them intensified. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 28, Chapter 28, Final preparation before departure. Sasuke grudgingly opens his eyes, as the sun peeks through the window. Next to him was a naked Yasaka in full glory. At the moment, he had his only arm wrapped around Yasaka. With little movement, Yasaka awoke as well. She stared at Sasuke and smiled, remembering their erotic night. She sat up on the bed and kneeled in front of Sasuke. She looked down at Sasuke's member and smiled. Not caring to ask, she took it with her hand and began stroking it gently. Sasuke didn't say anything and let Yasaka do her business. She's such a horny fox, especially last night, he thought. He decided to close his eyes and let Yasaka work her magic. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. It had been some time since they had both woken up. Sasuke found himself alone while Yasaka attended to her duties as the leader of the yokais. I wonder if Yasaka or yokais in general can use jutsus, he muttered. Yasaka would be able to use shadow clones to handle her paperwork so she could be with me, he thought. Before returning to his own world, Sasuke decided to visit his shadow dimension. Activating his Rain Sharingan, his body transformed into a dark mist and disappeared into the ground. In this new plane, the ground was a dark grey, and the sky was black with faint purple glows illuminating the dimension. Sasuke's body began to materialize in this unfamiliar realm. This was the dimension he acquired when he upgraded his Rinnegan. As he fully manifested in the shadow dimension, he was greeted by his loyal Shadow Knight, who bowed respectfully. "My liege, you have returned," he said with reverence. Sasuke regarded him with a nod of acknowledgement. "You have done well in the last battle. I shall grant you the name Igris," Sasuke declared, bestowing a name upon his knight. Igris's expression brightened with gratitude. "Thank you, my liege. I will serve you with all my abilities," he pledged. Surveying the desolate surroundings, Sasuke remarked on the barrenness of the dimension. "It is quite desolate here," he commented, his eyes scanning the shadows that danced and shifted around them. He turned his attention to Igris. "Take me to the sacred gears," he commanded. Sasuke intended to acquire the Annihilation Maker, a sacred gear that would enhance his ability to create shadow beings by manipulating darkness. As for the true Longinus, he wasn't certain yet how he would utilize its power. Following Igris, Sasuke approached a man with lifeless eyes, who stood among the sacred gears. Sasuke smirked, acknowledging Igris's actions. "You did well, Igris," he praised, his voice laced with a dark satisfaction. Igris responded with conviction, "This is what he deserves for hurting the queen." Sasuke chuckled in agreement. "Yes, indeed," he affirmed, reveling in the loyalty of his Shadow Knight. Approaching the man with lifeless eyes, Sasuke noticed no reaction from him. He activated the human path ability, extracting only the useful memories. "Fortunately, I can absorb only the necessary memories, or else my brain would be overwhelmed," he commented, showing no interest in the backgrounds of these wannabe heroes. Similar to the Longinus user, a white orb suspended the lifeless body, refusing to disappear. Sasuke studied it carefully, realizing that this dimension had no connection to the real world. Returning to the sacred gear system seems impossible here, he deduced. His gaze then shifted to the true Longinus orb. Sasuke felt an odd sensation and decided to avoid interfering with it for now. "I have a feeling it will bring more trouble if I approach it." Approaching the Annihilation Maker, Sasuke felt it fly directly into his chest, penetrating his being. The entire dimension trembled violently in response, as if resonating with the immense power now coursing through Sasuke. He stood motionless, his body surrounded by a swirling dark aura. The aura expanded, enveloping the entire realm, as if it were an extension of Sasuke himself. His sclera turned dark, and he remained still, allowing the transformation to unfold. Suddenly, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan activated, and a purple aura formed around his body. The aura merged with the dark energy, taking the form of armor surrounding his body. Sasuke now possessed an armor composed of Susanoo with black mist filling the gaps, emanating an ominous aura. Sasuke observed his enhanced form and the newfound abilities granted by the connection with the Annihilation Maker. It seems the Annihilation Maker has linked with my dimension, allowing me to create an unlimited army of shadows, he noted with a hint of satisfaction. Adjusting his Susanoo armor, he manifested wings on his back, further enhancing his power. I have become stronger once again. This form resembles Indra's Susanoo, but it is infused with darkness in its human-like shape, he remarked, drawing parallels between the two. Approaching Igris, Sasuke inquired, "Do you feel a difference?" Igris responded with conviction, "My liege, I have grown in strength. I now stand at the peak of the Satan class." Sasuke nodded in acknowledgement, saying, "Good. I will create subordinates for you. Assist them in their growth, as they will be crucial for future endeavors. We will also spar together to help you stabilize your strength and hopefully reach the super class." "I will carry out your commands," Igris replied with determination. Sasuke placed his hand on the ground, summoning 50 soldiers. These soldiers stood at around 6 feet tall, donning black armor similar to Igris. Sasuke decided to establish a battalion of knights for the time being, with plans to create different divisions later on. "Do your best, Igris. I will give you 5 days to train them. I will need them to grappled in my original world," Sasuke declared. Sasuke deactivated the armor enveloping him and transformed into a black mist, dissipating from the dimension. Returning to the real world, he sought out Yasaka. ****. Leaning against the doorframe, Sasuke observed Yasaka diligently working. Sensing someone's presence, Yasaka looked up and brightened with a smile. "Hubby, you're back," she exclaimed. Sasuke chuckled and approached Yasaka, settling himself in her chair with her on his lap. He wrapped his arm around her waist and rested his head on her shoulder. Playfully, he blew into her ear, causing her to squirm. "In this world and my world, chakra is similar. There is a jutsu called Shadow Clone Jutsu, which creates a physical copy of oneself. The clone can perform your tasks, and when dispelled, you gain their memories," Sasuke informed Yasaka, sharing his idea. Yasaka's face lit up with happiness. "If I can really learn it, it would be a great help, and I can spend all my time with you," she said. Sasuke decided to tease Yasaka by nibbling on her ear, then replied, "Yes, you can learn it. I will teach you so you can practice, as I will be leaving this world tomorrow. When I return, I will have you all to myself." Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 29, Shinobi World. It was finally time for Sasuke to return to his old world. In the room where he had previously performed his closed cultivation, there was now a purple magic circle on the ground. "I wish I could come with you, Sasuke," said Yasaka, her expression filled with longing. Sasuke nodded, understanding her desire. "I feel the same, but I have no information about my world for the past 2 years. We were in the midst of a war when I left. However, next time, I promise to show you around my world for sightseeing with my family," he reassured her. Yasaka pouted, her disappointment evident. "Fine, come back as soon as you can and stay safe," she said with a hint of worry. Sasuke found her reaction cute and couldn't help but smile. "The longest I'll be gone is a week. If everything goes smoothly, I might even return in just a day," he explained, hoping to alleviate her concerns. With his decision made, Sasuke walked toward the magic circle and activated his space-time jutsu. As he did, a black outline of a portal began to form above the magic circle. However, this portal was different from before. It appeared transparent, allowing the view of a grassy plain beyond it. Sasuke took a step toward Yasaka, ready to depart. "I will be going now," he said, his voice filled with both determination and affection. He embraced Yasaka, holding her tightly, and planted a loving kiss on her lips to show his devotion. Yasaka's hands rested on his chest as she leaned in, her tone serious as she spoke, "Don't keep me waiting too long." As they broke the kiss, Sasuke smiled at her, feeling the warmth of their connection. Behind Yasaka, Igris materialized, catching her off guard. Sasuke introduced Igris, saying, "This is my companion, Igris. He is made of shadow and has unwavering loyalty to me. He will reside in your shadow and protect you." Igris kneeled before Yasaka, showing his respect. "My queen, I will obey all your commands and ensure your safety," he pledged. Yasaka, still surprised, asked, "Is this the Annihilation Maker?" Sasuke reassured her, "Kinda, I can manipulate darkness and shadows. I created him myself. Although, I did obtain an Annihilation Maker, but let us keep it a secret." With their farewells said, Sasuke knew it was time to leave. He made his way toward the portal, and as he did, Igris disappeared into the shadows surrounding Yasaka. Sasuke turned back to give one last wave to Yasaka, and she waved back, her expression filled with a mix of longing and support. Taking a step into the portal, it closed behind him, leaving Yasaka alone in the room. Back in the Shinboi, Sasuke stepped onto the ground. He scanned his surroundings. "I wonder where I am," he muttered. Sasuke noticed he was in a dense forest, where the sun shone through the leaves and the wind blew. His hair gently swayed with the wind, and he breathed in deeply. "Should I be glad I am back?" he muttered with some nostalgia. Sasuke created wings of his Suanua behind his back and flew up into the air. High in the sky, he looked for signs of life and saw a road. He flew straight to road and landed on the ground. Sasuke decided to follow the path and find civilization first. Though he thought, "I look different now, but I should still disguise myself." He activated his transformation jutsu and tuned into Victor, the devil he had previously killed. Sasuke walked along the trail and created a link to his shadow dimension, and he ordered, "Spread out around the world and find the nearest civilization." Under Sasuke's feet, 50 puddles of shadows began to leave his own shadow and spread out in different directions. "Once they find a village, I will switch places with them," he muttered as he continued to walk. After 10 minutes, Sasuke received a message through his connection. One of his shadow knights had found civilization. Sasuke ordered the knight to head to an empty alley, and they switched places. Sasuke, now disguised, materialized in the alley. "This ability is really convenient," he muttered. Sensing nobody nearby, Sasuke walked out of the alley and seamlessly blended in with the crowd of people walking. He observed the passers-by, noticing some shinobi wearing headbands. "I wonder where my headband is, maybe Naruto has it," he thought. In the land of hot springs, Sasuke realized that he was in close proximity to the Sound Village. With this information, he ordered some of his shadow knights to head to Sound Village and Konoha, 2 important locations for him to visit within the Shinobi World. While waiting for his shadows to reach their destinations, Sasuke casually dined in a restaurant. During this time, he gathered information about the current state of the Shinobi World. Following the release of the Infinite Tsukuyomi, peace had been restored. The 5 Kages held a summit and agreed upon a peace treaty. In Konoha, Kakashi had assumed the position of the 6th Hokage, and Sasuke chuckled at Kakashi's plight. Naruto was regarded as a hero throughout the villages, but he continued to search for Sasuke despite the belief of others that he was deceased. However, Sasuke was content with the world thinking he was dead, as it would make it easier for him to move between worlds. He planned to have a conversation with Naruto, sharing his choices and intentions, knowing that his friend, although concerned, would ultimately understand and support him. Suddenly, Sasuke received a notification that one of his shadow knights had successfully arrived at the Sound Village. Finishing his meal, he made his way to an empty alley and vanished into a shroud of black mist. In close proximity to one of Orochimaru's hideouts, which was under Konoha's supervision, Sasuke had switched places with his Shadow Knight. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 30, Meeting Orochimaru. Sasuke released his transformation jutsu and entered Orochimaru's hideout. As he moved forward, he sensed the familiar chakra signatures of Team Taka. Sensing Orochimaru's presence ahead, Sasuke made his way towards him. Suddenly, a kunai shot straight at him. Sasuke's cold smile emerged as he appeared behind Orochimaru with a kunai and spoke, "I was just following in Sensei's footsteps. Didn't you do the same?" Orochimaru, recognizing Sasuke's voice, replied, "You have gained a sense of humor, Sasuke-kun." Sasuke responded with a dismissive grunt, his new appearance and heightened strength leaving an impression on Orochimaru. "I knew you wouldn't die, Sasuke. I did mention my interest in your life choices, yet you disappeared for 2 years, Orochimaru said in a flat tone. "Tch, I was in another world and was at death's door when I arrived," Sasuke retorted. "So, what do you need, Sasuke?" asked Orochimaru as they both took a seat. Sasuke proceeded to explain his choice to live in the DxD world. "Why did you tell me this, Sasuke?" inquired Orochimaru. Sasuke responded, "There is a scientist from the Devil faction who has created an object called evil pieces. They can forcibly revive a person and turn them into a devil. I want to know if you can prevent that." Orochimaru chuckled, "You doubt my abilities, Sasuke." Sasuke rolled his eyes, and beside him, 2 lifeless bodies of a fallen angel and devil appeared. "You can research them if you want, but I need the reanimation jutsu and an arm made of Hashirama's cells," stated Sasuke. Sasuke decided to be direct, "In the world I am living in now, even though you tried to take my body, Itaka stopped it. Will you come to this world? There are things that only a scientist like you can do in that world." Orochimaru remained silent for a moment, then spoke, "Well, I did say I would follow your actions. I will come. It seems this new world has a lot of things I can still discover." "Why do you need the reanimation jutsu?" asked Orochimaru. Sasuke replied, "To revive my family," and he got up, making his way out. "How long will it take to make an arm of Hashirama's cells?" "Do you need my DNA as well?" inquired Sasuke. Orochimaru responded, "It will take at least 3 days. I already have a sample of your DNA." Sasuke scoffed, calling him a snake, before leaving the room. Orochimaru, observing Sasuke's departure, licked his lips and looked at the bodies. "What an interesting life you have, Uchiha Sasuke, and it seems you met someone special there," he mused. Sasuke, now in the corridor, was walking when suddenly he encountered someone. The girl had red hair and red glasses, and stared at him. Sasuke felt complicated looking at Karin. Karin, seeing Sasuke, had tears in her eyes and ran towards him, hugging him tightly. "Thank God, you're alive," she exclaimed. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, unsure of how to respond. He already had Yasaka, and it seemed that Karin still had feelings for him. While he did find Karin attractive, he needed to clarify his position now. Sasuke remained silent as Karin poured out her emotions. She eventually released the hug and stared at Sasuke, blushing. He had grown into a man and looked handsome since the last time she saw him. With her Kagaya mind's eyes, she observed Sasuke and noticed that his aura, although still dark, now had a bright spot within it. She squinted her eyes, trying to understand it. Sasuke looked down and then spoke, "I'm sorry for how I treated you, Karin. I used your affection for me as a tool and almost killed you." Karin felt her heart flutter upon hearing Sasuke's apology. "You don't need to apologize. It was my own choice to follow you," she murmured softly, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you." Sasuke, relieved by her forgiveness, felt his shoulders relax. Let me tell you where I've been for the past 2 years, Karin. ******. Sasuke and Karin sat in a dining room, with Karin peeling an apple for Sasuke. He insisted that she didn't have to do it, but Karin stubbornly continued. Sasuke sighed, recognizing it as a clear Uzumaki trait. He began sharing the details of his life over the past 2 years and the people he had met. Karin, there is someone I love now, and I cannot accept your feelings, he said gently, breaking the news to her. Karin looked down and gripped her skirt, mustering a soft response, I see. Sasuke felt a pang of guilt upon hearing Karin's reply. He approached her and poked her forehead, saying, You're one of my comrades who helped me seek revenge. I will always be there to support you in any way I can. I asked Orochimaru to come to this new world. Would you like to come as well? He asked. Hearing Sasuke's genuine concern, Karin smiled brightly and replied, Yes, we're still a team, so I will follow you. Sasuke could only think, this girl. Yasaka already knew about her from my memories and didn't seem to have a problem with their affection. I guess I'll cross that bridge when the time comes. Suddenly, Orochimaru entered the room and handed Sasuke the reanimation jutsu. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and copied the technique. Thanks, he said, expressing his gratitude. Looking at Karin, Sasuke explained, there's a person in that world who can bring the deceased back to life. I will be reviving my family. Karin's eyes softened, and she replied, Congratulations, Sasuke. Let me show you one of my new abilities, Karin, said Sasuke. Suddenly, 6 shadow soldiers appeared behind him. These beings are created from my Rain Sharingan and the sacred gear Annihilation Maker, Sasuke explained. Do you still have the 4th Hokage's body? Sasuke asked Orochimaru. Observing Sasuke's new abilities, Orochimaru responded, It seems that world is truly unique, especially with the sacred gears. Are you planning to revive Naruto's parents? Orochimaru asked. Sasuke simply responded with an HN, and Orochimaru understood the reasons behind Sasuke's decision. He thought to himself, their relationship is similar to Jiraiya and mine. A/N, as much as I like Jiraiya, he will not be revived, let us just remember him as pervy sage. Sasuke brought Orochimaru and Team Taka, as they will aid him greatly in helping the Shinto pantheon to strengthen and protect Japan. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 31, Obito's Lab. Orochimaru left the room, leaving Sasuke and Karin behind. Sasuke mentally connected to the 6 Shadow Knights he had summoned. Go to the Konoha cemetery, he commanded them. Retrieve the bodies of Mikoto, Fugaku, Izumi, and Kushina and store them in my shadow dimension. He continued, instructing the others, search the Naka River for Shisui and also look for Itaka's body near Akatsuki's hideout. These tasks are important for our plans, so find them as quick as you can. With the Shadow Knights occupied with these menial tasks, Sasuke believed that by the following day, he would finally be able to revive his loved ones. Karin, if you happen to come across Suijutsuo and Yugo, inform them about the offer I gave you, Sasuke requested. I have a place I need to visit. Karin replied with a dismissive tone, TCH, I don't understand why you want to bring Suijutsuo along, but I will inform them. Will you be back later? Sasuke nodded in response and disappeared in a trail of smoke. I destroyed Obito's hideout, but I never thoroughly investigated it, he mused to himself. It's best to remove any remaining Sharingan in this world. Sasuke swiftly moved through the shadows, utilizing his maximum speed to reach the hideout. He was determined not to prolong his stay in this world any further. Upon entering the untouched hideout, Sasuke found no sign of human life that had appeared here recently. I would have thought Orochimaru would have taken them, Sasuke muttered. Inside the abandoned lab, which had been destroyed when Sasuke activated his Susanoo, he discovered dozens of test tubes containing Sharingan eyes. These were the eyes of Uchiha clan members that had been plucked during the massacre. No one will have to bear the curse of hatred any longer, Sasuke declared. In this new world, the Uchiha clan would have a fresh start. Additionally, Sasuke had some ideas after learning about Tobirama's explanation of the Sharingan's evolution. Sasuke stored all the test tubes in his shadow dimension, even his old pair of eyes which was completely blind. He made his way outside and activated half of his Susanoo. With a swing of his sword, the building crumbled under the force of Sasuke's attack. I need to acquire jutsus for the future generation of Uchiha and teach Yasaka some techniques, he contemplated. Sasuke knew that Konoha held a secret stash of jutsus collected by the Uchiha clan since the warring era. He pondered, I wonder what chakra nature Yasaka possesses. Once I return, I should focus on assisting Yasaka and strengthening her faction. My shadow soldiers won't be enough to cover all of Japan, Sasuke remarked, gazing at the debris of the crumbled hideout and the surrounding mountain. It had been a while since he left Orochimaru's hideout, and it was already nightfall. Sasuke decided to switch places with one of his prepared shadow soldiers. Now inside his own hideout, he had the bodies of his parents, Izumi and Kushina, stored in his dimension. Most of his soldiers were still searching the Naka River, while others were checking the Akatsuki hideout for Ataka's body. Walking back to meet Orochimaru in the hideout, Sasuke muttered to himself, should I visit Konoha? Orochimaru appeared in front of him and added, yes, I've heard that Naruto doesn't believe you're dead. Sasuke rolled his eyes. I am planning to visit, but not on this trip. If his parents agree to come back to life, I will meet him alongside them, he explained. He then added, once my arm is restored, we can go to the new world. If you want to bring your experiments along, I can store objects in my dimension. I have most of the experiments in storage scrolls. Plus, the world you told me about seems more modern than here. I'll see what kind of equipment they have there, Orochimaru responded. Just so you know, I'm broke and have no money to buy you equipment, Sasuke stated flatly. Orochimaru scoffed and replied, what kind of sensei would I be if I used my disciples' money? Sasuke rolled his eyes and jabbed back, the kind who preys on little kids. Orochimaru didn't comment and walked away. Sasuke added with seriousness, I don't care if you experiment on supernatural beings, considering there are a lot of rogue and disgusting people out there. But don't touch the yokai. From a distance, Orochimaru replied, I no longer conduct human experiments. I'll decline your offer. Sasuke raised an eyebrow and retorted, is that so? Sasuke, back in his old room from his training days with Orochimaru, contemplated his plan. I possess Ataka's eyes, and once I revive him, I will give him my own. During his reanimation, he had a full pair of Mangekyo in his eyes, but he used Izanami. Does that mean there will be 2 pairs of Ataka's Mangekyo? Sasuke wondered, realizing that the reanimation jutsu brings back the person in their peak state. I suppose we will find out when Amaterasu grants him a living body again. Deciding to rest for the night, Sasuke ensured that his shadow soldiers guarded the room in case of any danger. By tomorrow morning, I should have Ataki and Shisui's bodies stored in my dimension, he resolved. The next day arrived, marking Sasuke's second day back in the Shinobi World. I really miss Yasaka, he muttered, rising from bed and gathering information. He learned that all the bodies had been located. Sasuke headed to the kitchen in Orochimaru's hideout and had breakfast. In the midst of his activities, he spotted Suijutsuo and Yugo. Sasuke apologized for his past actions and asked if they would join him in the new world. They agreed, and Sasuke felt relieved to have some allies in his journey. Now in Orochimaru's lab, Sasuke approached him. Can I retrieve Minato's body now? He inquired. Orochimaru, currently crafting Sasuke's new arm, responded, I've placed his body in one of the storage rooms for you. There are also some white Zetsu bodies available for you to sacrifice for the jutsu. A/N, next chapter. The Uchiha family is back. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 32, Chapter 32, The Uchiha Family Revived. In a dimly lit room, Sasuke stood alone, surrounded by the necessary components for performing the reanimation jutsu. He spoke to himself, I guess this is it. Laid out on the ground were numerous Fuinjutsu symbols, and 7 white Zetsu were trapped within them. Sasuke was aware that not all the white Zetsu had been eliminated, and Orochimaru had been using them for cloning experiments. With the DNA of his family prepared, Sasuke focused his gaze on the ritual. He took a deep breath and began performing the hand seals, tiger, snake, dog, dragon. Placing his hand on the ground, he executed, summoning, impure world reincarnation. Within moments, the 7 bodies of the white Zetsu started to undergo a transformation. Paper-like material began to envelop them, shaping their forms. Suddenly, 7 blue souls descended into the white Zetsu bodies. With a final agonizing scream, the souls merged within their intended hosts, completing the reanimation process. The 7 reanimated individuals opened their eyes and scanned the surroundings, their gazes fixated on Sasuke. Itachi, noticing Sasuke's presence, was about to address him. However, Sasuke's attention shifted as he sensed someone approaching him with the intention to punch him. Caught off guard, Sasuke swiftly activated a Menotogakara, utilizing his space-time ninjutsu to switch places with Shisui. In an instant, he found himself standing behind his mother, a chuckle escaping him as he witnessed Shisui being propelled into the wall by Kushina's punch. Mikoto turned her head and caught sight of Sasuke, her smile transforming into a gentle expression as she recognized her grown-up son. Kushina, please don't attack my son, she interjected, well aware of Kushina's fiery temperament. Kushina, upon hearing Mikoto's words, smiled and exclaimed, Miko-chan, is that really you? And is that your son? I wonder how Naruto is doing. Her gaze then shifted to Minato, who stood beside her with a wry smile on his face. Shisui, recovering from the impact, glanced around with a perplexed expression, trying to comprehend how he had suddenly ended up here and gotten punched. Itachi, observing Shisui's puzzled look, had a dry expression on his face, knowing that Sasuke had grown significantly stronger since their last encounter and had just employed a space-time jutsu. Turning towards her son, Mikoto placed a hand on her face and questioned, Sasuke, is it truly you? Feeling the warmth of his mother's touch, Sasuke smiled and replied, yes, mother, it has been a while. Fugaku, standing beside Mikoto, interjected, you have grown up well, son. Sasuke looked at his father and responded, thank you. He understood that his father was not one to engage in extensive conversation but was still glad to reunite with him. Minato pondered the situation and inquired, is the war over, Sasuke? Hearing the mention of the war, Shisui's expression saddened, and he added, even after I died, there was another war. Sasuke, addressing Minato's question, replied, it has been 2 years since the war ended. Realizing that they desired more information, Sasuke continued, I was trapped in another world when the war concluded. While Naruto and I were dispelling the genjutsu that had been cast on the world, my Rinnegan ability triggered a space-time jutsu, transporting me to a different world, mere inches away from death. Itachi, curious about Sasuke's intentions, asked, so why did you revive us, Sasuke? Hearing Itachi's question and knowing he would eventually have to explain his 2 years away and the newfound peace he had made, Sasuke replied, I only returned yesterday. For 2 years, I was trying to find a way back home. Scratching the back of his head, Sasuke continued, I'm not sure how to say this. He struggled to find the right words to convey his desire to bring them back to life. He began explaining, first, there was the Fourth Shinobi War. There's a lot to tell, but in summary, Madara Uchiha wanted to place the entire world under a genjutsu where everyone would live their dream lives. Akatsuki, an organization Itachi was a part of, captured all the tailed beasts to combine them into the 10 tails. Mikoto, hearing that Itachi was involved, questioned, "Son, why did you join them?" Sasuke glanced at Itachi, chuckling as their mother scolded him for being a part of a terrorist organization. Itachi desperately tried to calm their mother down, until Sasuke realized that he, too, had been involved in Akatsuki, so he let the conversation proceed. Madara became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki and cast the infinite Tsukuyomi. Naruto and I were the recent incarnations of the Sage of Six Paths sons. He bestowed upon both of us his son's inheritance. I acquired the Rinnegan through him, Sasuke explained. But there was a twist. Infinite Tsukuyomi couldn't save the world. Madara was betrayed by the will he believed to be his own, which turned out to be the ancestor of Chakra, the sage's mother, Kaguya Otsutsuki. She was revived, and only Naruto and I had the ability to stop her while everyone else was trapped. We ultimately defeated her. Sasuke continued, "So, I learned the truth about the massacre and grew to despise the shinobi system. I planned to kill all the Kage." Everyone was silent upon hearing this revelation. "But I no longer hold that intention. Naruto fought alongside me and prevented me from going down that path. In the end, we both lost an arm, and I abandoned my pursuit." A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. Rolling his eyes, Sasuke added, "While we were dispelling the genjutsu, I was sent to another world." Sasuke looked at his family and explained, "The reason I revived you is that I no longer intend to stay in this world. I am living in a new world with someone." His voice carried a hint of uncertainty. "The Uchiha clan no longer belongs in this world. There are countless powerful beings there, even gods and goddesses. I am acquainted with a goddess who has the ability to turn your bodies into living ones," Sasuke said, his tone uncertain. "I can release the jutsu if you do not wish to be revived and come to this new world," he concluded sadly. Sasuke then looked at Minato and Kushina and said, "As for you both, I consider Naruto my best friend. He is very selfless, and I owe him a lot for helping me. You can get your real bodies back and be with him. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 33, Chapter 33, Fresh Start. Everyone was taken aback by Sasuke's revelation of being in another world and the possibility of being revived in living bodies. Itachi carefully observed Sasuke, noticing his immense growth and newfound peace. He glanced at Izumi and smiled back at her, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Suddenly, Mikoto expressed her desire, "I want to join Sasuke in the new world. We can have fresh start without the burdens of the past, where we could simply be a family." She looked at Sasuke with a smile, teasing him, "Is this special someone your girlfriend?" Sasuke's cheeks reddened, aware that they would soon meet Yasaka. "Ah, my son is in love, he is blushing so red," Mikoto playfully remarked. Kushina, with a determined expression, turned her gaze towards Minato. "I want to be with Naruto," she asserted firmly. Minato was at a loss for words, unsure of how to respond. Sasuke interjected, offering a solution, "You can remain hidden from the Shinobi World and still have the chance to meet Naruto, as long as no one knows that I've revived you." Fugaku, hearing his son's earnest plea, understood the hardships Sasuke must have faced after the massacre. He knew that losing one's family could lead a Uchiha down a destructive path, and Sasuke had lost his entire clan. Letting out a sigh, he could clearly see his sons longing for them to be a family and start afresh in the new world. Mikoto made a good point. "No one knows we're alive, I will follow you, son," Fugaku resolved. Sasuke couldn't contain his joy upon hearing his parents' responses. Besides being with Yasaka, having his family back meant the world to him. The goddess's name is Amaterasu, and she has a connection to my Mangekyo ability. I have gained her trust over the past 2 years. I already have permission to live in her territory. In fact, she wanted me to be her ally, given my already formidable strength in that world, Sasuke explained. Sasuke looked at Izumi and couldn't help but chuckle. Why are you laughing at me, Sasuke? Izumi asked, her tone laced with a hint of annoyance. You're just so small that Itake would be considered a groomer now, Sasuke teased. Shisui joined in the laughter, saying, haha, Itake is now a pedo. Itake didn't know how to respond, slightly embarrassed by the jest. After all, Izumi was still a teenager. Sasuke added playfully, though you're still single, Shisui. Sasuke decided to alleviate Izumi's concerns. I know Itake subjected you to Tsukuyomi. Your mental age should be older than your physical body. When you're revived, Amaterasu will help age your body, so there's no need to worry. Thanks, Sasuke. Little Sasuke is all grown up now, Izumi expressed her gratitude. Sasuke inquired, so, does everyone have no problem coming back to life? Everyone agreed, expressing their willingness to be revived. I've only been back for 2 days, but I've learned that the world is now in complete peace. After the war, all the Kage signed a peace treaty. The villages came together to defeat Madara and Obito, Sasuke informed them. Curious, Kushina asked, is Obito not dead? Sasuke realized they were unaware of Obito's fate and replied, Fourth Hokage, could you explain about Obito? Since you were there. Minato sighed, feeling responsible for his students' actions. I am no longer the Hokage, and your father and I are friends. You can call me uncle. It's my fault about Obito, so I'll tell them, he said. Kushina quickly added, call me Aunt Kushina too. You have grown since I saw you as a baby, I bet Naruto must be so handsome. Minato then proceeded to explain Obito's story, and they couldn't believe that the kind-hearted Obito had fallen under Madara's influence. Sasuke added, during our battle against Kaguya, Obito did save Naruto, me, and even Kakashi. Oh, and Kakashi is the 6th Hokage, Sasuke mentioned. Shisui chuckled at Kakashi's unexpected rise, saying, I never expected Captain to become the Hokage. Sasuke turned to his uncle and aunt, knowing their expertise in Fuinjutsu. Uncle Minato and Aunt Kushina, since you're both skilled in Fuinjutsu, I would appreciate your help with the technique I created to travel between worlds. I believe Fuinjutsu can remove the limitation of only a Rain Sharingan user being able to use it, Sasuke requested. Kushina clapped her hands together with enthusiasm and said, I would love to visit Mikoto, so I'll help. Your aunt is the best at Fuinjutsu. Minato added, I'll see what I can do. Based on what you explained, it seems to incorporate the principles of the Flying Thunder God technique. I would like for you to meet Naruto as I haven't met him yet myself. I'll have to return to this world to retrieve an arm Orochimaru is making, Sasuke explained. Itake looked at Sasuke, who continued, he has changed since then. I also need him in the new world because there's a technique that only he can prevent. Itake nodded and replied, I will trust your judgment then. Sasuke turned to Shisui and pointed his finger, questioning him, why didn't you use Kota Amatsukami on Danzo? I had to kill that guy countless times since he had an arm full of Sharingans and was using Izanagi. Shisui let out a dry laugh at Sasuke's comment. You could have prevented it with just one technique, Sasuke added. Shisui admitted, it was my careless judgment, Sasuke. I'm sorry. Sasuke sighed, I've moved on from that. I was just curious. Even I never expected Danzo's schemes to run so deep, planning the demise of our clan since the Nine Tails attack. I really hate that man. A/N, just felt like releasing 2 chapter, enjoy. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 34, Chapter 34, Casual Chat. We can either go to the new world, but I will just check Orochimaru to see if my new arm is created, Sasuke said, considering his options. He knew that eventually, he would have to return to this world and visit Konoha to retrieve the scrolls from the Uchiha compound. Sasuke turned to Itachi and Shisui, seeking their input. We can get the scrolls from the Uchiha compound now or wait until you regain your physical bodies, he suggested. Shisui chimed in, let's get the scrolls now. We can explore Konoha in disguises next time. Itachi pondered for a moment before responding, if you can get your arm today, we might as well stay a while longer before we depart for the new world. I agree, Sasuke nodded. I'll check with Orochimaru right away. Knowing that everyone had nothing else to do, he placed his hand on the ground. Instead of infusing chakra, Sasuke tapped into mana, a form of spiritual energy. A purple glow emitted from the ground, and a magic circle formed with the Uchiha crest at its center. This magic circle was created using mana or spiritual energy rather than chakra, Sasuke explained. He pointed at the intricate markings within the circle. It serves as a teleportation point, modified specifically to be accessed only by my Rain Sharingan. It acts as an anchor point, allowing me to establish connections to various spatial channels in the universe. Since you don't have a physical body, I'm not sure how you can pass the time. You can explore the magic circle, though, as I've learned some mana-related techniques that might interest you, Sasuke suggested. He pulled out a set of scrolls from his shadow dimension. These contain introductions to mana. You can read them for the time being, he offered. Kushina, intrigued by the runes surrounding the edges of the magic circle, placed her hand under her chin and mused, this is interesting. Once I grasp the concept of mana, I can incorporate it into Fuinjutsu. Minato crouched down, closely observing the intricate runes. It appears to be an entirely new language. We'll need to study it thoroughly before making any breakthroughs, he remarked. With everyone engrossed in studying the scrolls, Sasuke excused himself and headed towards Orochimaru. However, to his surprise, Itachi and Shisui decided to follow him. Sasuke raised an eyebrow and teasingly asked, not spending time with Izumi? Shisui winked mischievously and replied, are you feeling embarrassed about her age? Itachi interjected, she expressed an interest in learning about mana and didn't want to fall behind everyone. Sasuke pondered for a moment. I see. She must have a lot of potential, he commented. Then, changing the topic, he told Itachi and Shisui, I am not sure, but I believe Amaterasu will have way for you to regain your eyes. Both Itachi and Shisui were uncertain. I see, right, not the eye I used as an eye is back to normal. If this person can help us regain our eyes, it will help full, Itachi admitted. Shisui added, true, as I bet my eyes is most likely destroyed. Sasuke added, before I reanimated you, I retrieved my old pair eyes. So Itachi can get an eternal Mangyako Sharingan. Itachi replied, I see. Sasuke then said, sorry Shisui, you might just be blind for life. Sasuke then continued, by the way, we need to find a way to obtain the Mangekyo Sharingan without going through such emotional trauma. I have some theories, but I'll need your help. Itachi agreed, indeed, it's best for the next generation to avoid the curse of hatred. Shisui chimed in, yes, we should research this thoroughly. Perhaps the new world's technology and powers hold a solution. Sasuke mentioned, well, there's the Shinto pantheon I allied with. Some of their abilities are somewhat related to our situation. However, it's best not to rely solely on them, even though I have a good relationship with their chief goddess. The trio entered Orochimaru's lab, and Shisui couldn't help but make a comment, long time no see, Orochimaru. You haven't aged a bit. Orochimaru chuckled slightly, well aware of Shisui's enigmatic nature. It's great to see you, Itachi, Orochimaru said with a wicked smile. Itachi responded in his usual calm manner, likewise. I suppose everything was a success, Sasuke? Orochimaru inquired. Sasuke nodded and asked, when will my arm be finished? Orochimaru replied, it will be ready in a couple of hours. Sasuke nodded in satisfaction. He would be able to return to Yasaka today. As I mentioned before, I will give you a drop of phoenix tears. Hopefully, you can reproduce it. This item could bring in a substantial amount of money in the supernatural world if successfully replicated, Sasuke explained. Orochimaru was already aware of the tears' incredible healing properties and their ability to reattach body parts. He couldn't help but chuckle, imagining Tsunade's reaction to such a heaven-defying item. Let's head to Konoha, Sasuke suggested. He then proceeded to inform them about his shadow-related abilities, explaining how he could switch places with his shadows. I recall when you infiltrated Konoha as a member of Akatsuki, and no one noticed except Kakashi, Sasuke remarked. Itachi reassured them, Konoha won't be alerted, as they have chakra signature recognition. We should have no problem entering. Shisui chimed in, once you become an ANBU, you'll learn the weak points of the barrier around Konoha. Shisui couldn't resist teasing Sasuke, laughing and saying, haha, you're still a genin, though. Irritated, Sasuke retorted, tch, shut up. Let's just go. Itachi chuckled softly, amused by Sasuke's annoyance. As the black mist dissipated, Sasuke, Itachi, and Shisui found themselves standing atop the Hokage monument in Konoha. To conceal their identities, they had taken cloaks to cover their heads. Suppressing their chakra, they decided against using transformation jutsu, relying on their disguises alone. The trio stood side by side on the monument, gazing down at the village below. Each of them carried different emotions, their expressions reflecting their inner thoughts. A/N, writing the Shinobi World arc, is pretty fun. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 35, Chapter 35, Arrival at Konoha. High atop the Konoha Hokage monument, three hidden silhouettes observed the tranquil village below. The sight of Konoha's peaceful state evoked a mix of emotions within each of them. Sasuke, overcome by a wave of nostalgia and a hint of reluctance, let out a sigh. It appears Konoha has moved on without us, he muttered, his once fiery hatred for the village now extinguished. While he no longer held a deep attachment to the affairs of this world, he couldn't deny the significance Konoha held in his life. A small smile graced his lips as he reminisced about the journey that led him from happiness to darkness, and eventually to redemption. Turning to his companions, Sasuke asked, "How are you both feeling?" Itachi, witnessing the peace that had settled over Konoha, felt an inexplicable sense of strangeness. He had sacrificed everything for the village, dedicating his life to its protection, and now that peace had been achieved, he found himself questioning his role within its confines. With a heavy sigh, he confessed, "My mission is complete. After my death, I am no longer a shinobi of Konoha." Shisui, on the other hand, experienced a mix of joy and sadness. As he watched the bustling streets and witnessed the vibrant life of the villagers, he couldn't help but feel a sense of happiness. However, he also recognized that their place was no longer within these familiar surroundings. "We no longer belong here," he murmured, a touch of melancholy tainting his words. The three figures stood in quiet agreement, their thoughts intertwined yet accepting of the truth. Konoha had moved on, and they had moved on with it. Sasuke and Itachi nodded in response to Shisui's remark. Itachi turned to Sasuke, curious about his little brother's feelings towards Konoha, the village Itachi had sacrificed so much to save. He asked, "How do you feel, Sasuke?" With a calm gaze fixed upon Konoha, Sasuke felt a sense of contentment he had never experienced before. "Right now, I am the happiest I have ever been," he confessed. "I have people I want to protect, and Konoha is no longer the home solely for the Uchiha." Itachi's smile grew genuine as he listened to Sasuke's response. I see, he replied. We can further explore Konoha when we regain our physical bodies. But for now, let's head to the Uchiha compound. Shisui agreed, and with a playful rustle of Sasuke's hair, he expressed his relief that Sasuke no longer held any hatred towards Konoha. Deep down, Shisui couldn't deny the hurt he felt upon learning about Danzo's intricate plans for the Uchiha's demise. He had once aspired to follow in his grandfather Kagami Uchiha's footsteps, seeking peace between the Uchiha and Konoha. However, he knew now that his efforts would have been in vain, as their annihilation would have been inevitable. Sasuke playfully elbowed Shisui, teasingly declaring, Haha, I always said Itachi is stronger than you. We can settle this when we go to the new world. Shisui chuckled but couldn't help feeling a bead of sweat forming on his brow. I am still stronger than Itachi, he retorted, though inwardly he couldn't let himself fall behind, especially now that Itachi had the potential to achieve the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Itachi rolled his eyes at the playful banter, but deep inside, he felt a sense of happiness. It seems Sasuke still acknowledges that I am stronger than Shisui, he thought. Recognizing Sasuke's strength surpassing his own and the vast power present in the new world they were entering, Itachi couldn't afford to disappoint his little brother. He silently resolved to continue growing and supporting Sasuke on their shared journey. Finishing their small banter, the trio swiftly flickered away, arriving at the desolate Uchiha compound. The once vibrant home of the Uchiha now lay abandoned and empty. I am first, Shisui declared, highlighting his expertise in body flicker technique. Bitch, I didn't even try, Sasuke retorted playfully. Itachi simply hummed in agreement. Looking around the desolate compound, Shisui expressed his wish for the preservation of their history. I hope they make it a historical site, he earnestly remarked, not wanting their home to be completely demolished. Sasuke nodded in agreement. I hope that the higher UPS will at least preserve some of our history, he added. Itachi, walking ahead, gazed at the sheets, his eyes turning dark as memories of the massacre flooded his mind. The bloodstains that once covered the compound haunted his thoughts. Sasuke placed a comforting hand on his brother's shoulder, speaking softly, It's time to move on, brother. Itachi sighed, acknowledging Sasuke's words. You're right, Sasuke. I couldn't help but imagine the once bustling compound, filled with happiness. And I destroyed all of that. Sasuke opened his mouth to respond but then closed it, exchanging a glance with Shisui. They both understood the weight of Itachi's psychological burden. Sasuke thought to himself, that's a deep wound. I hope he can find a way to overcome it. Patting Itachi's back, Sasuke led the way as they continued exploring the compound. Eventually, they found themselves in the Uchiha clan library. Most of the public jutsus was confiscated by Konoha, Sasuke informed them, glancing at the empty shelves that once held a wealth of knowledge. Itachi moved towards one of the empty walls in the library and performed a series of hand signs. Placing his hand on the wall, intricate Fuinjutsu symbols appeared, causing the wall to slide aside, revealing a hidden room. Only the clan head and the clan successor know the combination to enter the hidden room, Itachi explained, intending to share their clan's history with Sasuke. I see. I had to get jutsus from Kakashi. It was pretty hard having a lazy sensei, Sasuke commented. Shisui chuckled. Captain may be lazy, but he's still a good person you can trust, he said. Sasuke nodded. Yeah, he did teach me Chidori. Now it's become my signature technique. A/N, this trio will be the one to dominate the DxD world. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 36, Chapter 36, Steal the Scroll of Seals 1/2. In the hidden room, a plethora of scrolls filled with various jutsu awaited their discovery. These scrolls had been collected since the Warring States era, and Shisui couldn't help but whistle in awe. This is quite a lot. I wish I could have entered here, he remarked, expressing his fascination. Sasuke nodded, realizing that these scrolls held valuable knowledge that could aid him since he has all chakra nature. Hopefully, I can use some of these jutsu to assist Yasaka, he thought to himself. Itachi, scanning the scrolls, spoke up. Whenever you're ready, Sasuke, you can store them all, he suggested. Sasuke began to envelop the shelves filled with jutsu in a dark mist, effectively extracting and storing their contents. As the mist dissipated, leaving the room empty, Sasuke confirmed, done. With the jutsu secured, Sasuke revealed his intentions. Most of these jutsu are specifically for the Uchiha clan, but I would like to make a copy to assist Yasaka. She has helped me a lot, and I want to contribute to the strength of her faction. Itachi, intrigued by Sasuke's love interest, commented, so Yasaka is the person you love. Sasuke felt a twinge of awkwardness discussing his love life but replied, yeah, she has been a great support to me. I truly appreciate her. Since she is a yokai and possesses chakra, utilizing jutsu would be beneficial for them. I'm looking forward to meeting her. She seems like a good person. Just make sure to cherish her, brother, Itachi advised, emphasizing the importance of appreciating their loved ones. Sasuke nodded in agreement, promising to do so. Leaving the library, the trio ventured outside. Sasuke playfully suggested, how about we steal the scroll of seals? Itachi and Shisui's eyes widened at the audacity of the proposal. Sasuke quickly added, just kidding. Let's make a copy using our Sharingan. Shisui nodded, recognizing the logic behind Sasuke's suggestion. Even if we are leaving the village, I'd usually say no. But since we'll be in another world, I don't see any harm in making a copy. Itachi agreed, fine, so we're all in agreement. Sasuke quickly called out, not it. Itachi caught on and echoed, same. Shisui, finally realizing their intentions, chuckled. Hehe, I'll show you both my superior skills of infiltration, he declared with confidence. Sasuke gave him a thumbs up. Good luck, Shisui. Itachi and I will be hiding in the shadows, tailing you. If you get caught, we might have to ditch you, he playfully warned. Itachi added, good luck, senpai. With that, Sasuke and Itachi disappeared into the shadows, leaving Shisui to embark on his infiltration mission alone. Shisui said, cowards, unbothered by the teasing from Sasuke and Itachi and, activated his body flicker technique, swiftly maneuvering through Konoha towards the Hokage building. Sasuke and Itachi, hidden in the shadows, observed his impressive speed. He's really fast. Besides Naruto, he should be the fastest in Konoha right now, Sasuke commented, impressed by Shisui's skills. Itachi, reminiscing about Shisui's reputation, shared his knowledge. Shisui was feared throughout the Shinobi world. Even at such a young age, his mere presence deterred the hidden mist. He is truly remarkable, he informed Sasuke. With curiosity brimming, Sasuke questioned his brother. Are you happy now? We are no longer burdened by anyone but free, he said, hoping to gauge Itachi's feelings. Itachi chuckled softly, taking a deep breath before responding. What I put you through is my greatest regret in life. Am I happy? Let's just take each step towards the future and find happiness along the way, he answered, his voice tinged with a mix of emotions. Sasuke's expression grew serious as he pressed on. Okay, but you have to promise this time to share your burdens. I'm not a child anymore, he insisted. Itachi smiled, yes, brother, I will keep my promise this time, he assured, as this was a second chance for himself. Shisui blended seamlessly with the darkness as he positioned himself outside the Hokage building. This brings back some nostalgia, he softly muttered, a hint of fondness in his voice. With his ANBU training and knowledge of the building's security rotations, he knew he could infiltrate without raising any alarms. It's dangerous, that I'm not their enemy. I know all the weaknesses to successfully infiltrate, he thought, his confidence unwavering. Infusing chakra into his feet, he scaled the walls with ease and utilized the cloak he was wearing to blend in as he entered one of the many corridors within the Hokage building. Moving swiftly, he flickered through the hallways, making it virtually impossible for any sensors to detect his presence. Taking position beside a wall, Shisui sensed the approach of two jonin walking down the corridor. As they turned the corner, their gazes met two spinning red eyes, ensnared within Shisui's genjutsu. The jonin stood there, momentarily dazed and trapped by the illusion. Seizing the opportunity, Shisui swiftly moved towards one of the hidden entrances that only ANBU members could access within the Hokage building. Meanwhile, the two jonin, seemingly unaffected by the encounter, glanced at each other and shrugged, showing little concern or interest. Sasuke facepalmed in disbelief, shaking his head. Peace can really dull and lower the standards of shinobi, he commented, a touch of frustration evident in his voice. Itachi nodded in agreement, his tone carrying a hint of disappointment. You're right, Sasuke. The level they're at is simply not acceptable compared to my time. This is the trade-off when peace is established. I had hoped that at least the jonin would not become so lax, he lamented, recognizing the inevitable changes that came with a peaceful era. Sasuke contemplated the state of affairs and the future of shinobi in a peaceful era. I see, but wouldn't it get worse as Naruto is basically Hashirama? All the villages fear him and wouldn't dare start a war. Though I know the peace right now is real, it has been 2 years and the future seems pretty dim in terms of strength. I guess technology will take over, he mused, a hint of concern in his voice. Itachi nodded in agreement, understanding the changes that lay ahead. Yes, shinobi will eventually become obsolete, and technology will replace us. It's a double-edged sword, good and bad. Brother, don't dwell on it too much, he reassured Sasuke, his tone calm and steady. Sasuke simply hummed, HN. A/N, check out auxiliary chapter to give suggestions to my new novel I am writing. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Steal the Scroll of Seals 2 halves. Shisui maneuvered through the dimly lit corridor, skillfully avoiding the patrols of ANBU members. With Sasuke and Itachi discreetly following him, they observed his swift movements, taking note of the serious nature of the ANBU's presence within the village. After a while, Shisui reached the location where the scroll of seals was hidden. He noticed a few ANBU guards stationed nearby, concealed in the shadows. Assessing the situation, Shisui created a shadow clone to act as a distraction. The clone dashed in one direction, drawing the attention of the guards, while Shisui himself remained hidden in a corner. As the guards pursued the clone, only 2 ANBU remained at the entrance of the scroll's location. Shisui muttered to himself, I have no choice but to engage. With a swift activation of his body flicker technique, illusions of himself appeared around the ANBU guards. Taking advantage of the confusion, Shisui attacked one of them with a precise punch to the gut. Sensing a kunai flying towards him from behind, Shisui quickly replaced himself with a log, disappearing in a puff of smoke. He then flickered towards the ANBU who had thrown the kunai, utilizing his Sharingan to confuse his opponent and envelop the surroundings in darkness. Blocking the ANBU's field of vision, he swiftly struck the ANBU's neck, rendering him unconscious. Meanwhile, the other ANBU armed with a tanto lunged at Shisui, aiming for his gut. Shisui deftly parried the attack with a kunai, using a genjutsu to disorient his opponent. However, the opponent managed to stab Shisui in the heart, but Shisui's body began to melt like water, revealing an illusion. The surroundings quickly plunged into pitch darkness as 2 large spinning Sharingan appeared. Seizing the opportunity, Shisui swiftly incapacitated the remaining ANBU, ensuring they were no longer a threat. With the path cleared, he finally made his way to the hidden location where the scroll of seals awaited him. As Shisui finished his battle, he entered the room storing the scroll of seals, but the sound of clapping filled the room. Sasuke, amused, said, "Took you long enough." Rolling his eyes in response to Sasuke's teasing, Shisui retorted, "Well, I infiltrated it, so I will copy the scroll of seals." At the same time, Sasuke created a clone and headed outside the room to remove the memories of the ANBU guards. Shisui activated his Mangekyo Sharingan to begin the copying process. I cannot copy it," he informed the others. Itake furrowed his eyebrows in confusion and asked, "What do you mean?" Itake activated his own Mangekyo Sharingan and attempted to copy the scroll, but he encountered a challenge. The scroll's wordings became jumbled and resisted his copying efforts, leaving him puzzled. Softly muttering to himself, Itake remarked, "Strange." Observing their failed attempts, Sasuke decided to take a closer look at the scroll. As he scanned its contents, he raised an eyebrow and channeled chakra into his Rain Sharingan. This time, he was able to successfully copy the scroll's content. Chuckling at the predicament they had encountered, Sasuke thought to himself, "The second Hokage is truly cautious." He then turned to Itake and Shisui and said, "I was able to copy it. However, I had to use my Rain Sharingan to do so." It seems the second Hokage really had a dislike for the Uchiha. Understanding Sasuke's point, Itake nodded and added, "The second Hokage went to great lengths to prevent even the Mangekyo Sharingan from copying it, it seems." Shisui, realizing the depth of the second Hokage's knowledge about the Sharingan, remarked, "That guy really knows a lot about the Sharingan." Sasuke nodded in agreement and concluded, "Yes, when I met him, he seemed to have an exact understanding of how one's Sharingan evolves to the Mangekyo Sharingan. Fortunately, the Rain Sharingan, being the purest form of the dojutsu, allowed me to overcome these restrictions. Sigh, it really sucks that such precautions were taken against our clan," Shisui expressed his frustration. Itake chimed in, "There's no need to dwell on the past. Let's go now. Sasuke's arm should be done." Sasuke, unconcerned with the second Hokage's and the elders' caution towards the Uchiha, declared, "Let's head back to the hideout." His smile then turned sinister as he added, "But first, I need to kill the remaining elders." Noticing their lack of reaction, Sasuke questioned, "You guys aren't going to stop me?" Itake calmly responded, "We are beings from the past, and we won't meddle in the current affairs of the Shinobi world. The world has already moved on, and it is in capable hands." Shisui scratched the back of his head and nonchalantly added, I don't really care about them." Sasuke clicked his tongue in annoyance and remarked, "Tch, I was joking. Let them rot. I doubt they have much influence over Konoha's affairs after the third Hokage's and Danzo death." Itake simply hummed in agreement, leaving the choice up to Sasuke. Sasuke enveloped his body, as well as Itake and Shisui's, in darkness. "I have one more stop before we head back." The trio silently moved through the corridors of the Hokage building, hidden within Sasuke's shadow. Finally, they reached their destination, the Hokage's room. From their perfectly concealed position, they observed Kakashi. Shisui couldn't contain his laughter. "Haha, Captain is trapped doing paperwork all day." Itake remained stoic, but his lips couldn't resist curling into a smile. Sasuke, looking at his former sensei buried in paperwork, felt no pity but found the sight amusing. "Ah, why did I accept being the Hokage?" Kakashi hummed, leaning back on the chair, looking at all the piles of documents. His eye couldn't resist twitching when he saw his plight taking over from Tsunade, who was mostly likely enjoying her time gambling and drinking. Itake asked, "Do you want to visit him?" Sasuke gazed at Itake and replied, "Not yet. I'll meet him when everyone has settled back into the new world." A smile appeared on Sasuke's face as he shifted his shadow towards a blue book on the Hokage's desk. Swiftly, the book vanished without anyone noticing. In Sasuke's hand now rested a boldly titled book, Uchiha Paradise. Sasuke was about to open it when he felt the strange gazes of Itachi and Shisui upon him. Coughing, Sasuke hid the book within his shadow dimension and shamelessly explained, it will help spice up my relationship with Yasaka. Shisui teasingly punched Sasuke and remarked, well, you're an adult now. Itachi absent-mindedly nodded in agreement with Shisui, but in his thoughts, he wondered, when Izumi's body is normal, would this book help improve our relationship? Sasuke noticed Itachi's peculiar reaction but brushed it off, saying, let's go now. As the trio bodies began to vanish they heard, my limited edition of Uchiha Paradise is gone, Kakashi yelled, in fright. They all smiled at their senpais and sensei's reaction as they left. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 38, Chapter 38, Return and Acquiring Arm. Back in Orochimaru's hideout, the trio appeared, successfully obtaining Scroll of Seals for the future generation of their clan to use. Entering the room with the magic circle, Sasuke led the way, with Itachi and Shisui following behind. We're back, Sasuke announced, a smile forming on his face as he saw his parents. Welcome back, Sasuke. How was Konoha? Mikoto asked with curiosity. Fugaku, who had been engrossed in the scrolls about mana, looked up and noticed his sons and Shisui returning. He spoke, I assume Itachi took you to the hidden room where the clan stored most of the scrolls. Itachi simply responded with a nod. Sasuke added, it was really interesting. Konoha had confiscated all the public scrolls. Fugaku raised an eyebrow, questioning, they did. Sasuke confirmed, yes, apparently I was too young, so the third Hokage kept them for safekeeping until I reached Chunin rank. Fugaku silently cursed the third Hokage and the elders but merely replied, I see. Sasuke couldn't resist adding, Shisui actually stole the Scroll of Seals. Shisui's eyes widened, and both Sasuke and Itachi quickly distanced themselves from him. In an instant, Kushina's fist landed on Shisui's face. You idiot! You were supposed to be low-key. What if I can't see Naruto anymore? She roared in frustration. Sasuke burst into laughter, I'm just joking, Aunt Kushina. We made a copy of the Scroll of Seals. The second Hokage took precautions so that even the Manjiko Sharingan couldn't copy it. I had to use the Rain Sharingan. Kushina laughed nervously and helped Shisui up, apologizing, sorry, Shisui. You know, I just can't wait to see my Naruto. Shisui cursed Sasuke and Kushina silently, remembering the name Red Hot-Blooded Habanero. Observing the scene from the sidelines, Minato watched his wife's actions and sighed, thinking, I used to have Jiraiya-sensei to take the punches. But now, when I get a real body, I'll have no more protection. His body shivered as he sensed Kushina's glare directed at him. Seeking payback, Shisui interjected, actually, Sasuke also stole Kakashi's copy of Uchiha Paradise. Sasuke's eyes widened, and he exclaimed, snitch. This is why you're single. Sasuke noticed his mother and Kushina staring at him with strange looks, while his father and Minato wore proud gazes. Trying to defuse the situation, Sasuke quickly said, my arm is done. We'll be leaving this world soon, so bye. He enveloped his entire body in a black mist and exited the room, relieved to avoid further explanation. Izumi, unfazed by the commotion, found Mana to be quite interesting. When she saw Sasuke leave, she muttered under her breath, coward. Itachi, hearing Izumi's diss Sasuke, approached her with a smile. How is learning Mana, Izumi? He asked. Izumi, noticing Itachi, quickly replied, I'm loving it. I can't wait to go to the new world. Mana is so different from Chakra. Chakra may be more versatile, but magic has an easier learning curve. Simple spells like teleportation circles can be used by anyone with decent control of mana, unlike chakra, which requires affinity. Though chakra is more powerful. Listening to Izumi speak excitedly, Itaka nodded in understanding. I see, and we are different since we can use both chakra and mana, he commented. Izumi eagerly nodded in agreement, saying, I'm so excited, Itaka. Once I get my body back to normal, we can finally continue our relationship. Smiling gently, Itaka reached out and playfully poked Izumi's forehead. Me too, he responded. However, deep inside, he couldn't help but think, if her body wasn't so young, I would have hugged her. I just know Shisui would call me a groomer. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Sasuke returned to Orochimaru's lab and spotted Karin and Orochimaru. He greeted them, saying, I'm back. Karin smiled upon seeing Sasuke and asked, Welcome back, Sasuke. How was Konoha? Sasuke replied, It was interesting to see Konoha so peaceful. It seems they have moved on. Not entirely sure of his emotions, Karin decided to offer comfort. She said, You don't need to care about Konoha anymore. Sasuke appreciated her attempt and responded, Thanks, Karin. I suppose you met my parents then? Blushing slightly, Karin replied, Yes. I did. They were nice people. I also met Aunt Kushina, who even offered to teach me more Fuinjutsu and Uzumaki Kenjutsu. Sasuke hadn't expected that and said, That's great. When you come to the new world, there are many things to learn as well, if you're interested. Sasuke then approached Orochimaru and asked, Is my arm finished? Orochimaru had an arm made of pure Hashirama cells in front of him and responded, Yes, so did Konoha look any different? Sasuke replied, A little. It was amusing to see Kakashi doing paperwork. We actually had Shisui infiltrate ANBU, and we copied the scroll of seals. Orochimaru chuckled, saying, How rogue of you three. The Sharingan couldn't copy it, I assume. Clicking his tongue, Sasuke confirmed, Yes, I had to use the Rain Sharingan to copy it. Orochimaru nodded, amused by the situation. He then added, You have already given me a few drops of Phoenix Tears. I have already started researching them, so we can reattach your arm now. Sasuke sighed in relief and muttered, Finally. Karin approached him and said, I have learned medical jutsu, Sasuke. Would you like my help? Noticing her enthusiasm, Sasuke thought, Karin is a really kind person. I wish I hadn't hurt her in the past. He forced a smile and replied, Sure. He retrieved a bottle filled with Phoenix Tears from his dimension and handed it to Karin. Sasuke made his way to the medical bed and lay down. He started explaining the process of how the Phoenix Tears work to Karin, who nodded attentively, realizing the significance of this small bottle. Sasuke lay shirtless on the bed, causing Karin to blush at the sight of his defined body. She shook her head, reminding herself, this is important for Sasuke. No distractions. She opened the bottle of Phoenix Tears and poured the contents onto the end of the arm made of Hashirama cells. The edges of the arm began to glow red. Karin then carefully moved the arm to Sasuke's stump. At the same time, Orochimaru and Sasuke observed closely as Karin placed the arm onto Sasuke. It then started to glow red and successfully merged with his body. A/N2 chapter today, expect it soon. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 39, Chapter 39, The Uchihas in DxD World. Sasuke looked at his newly attached arm made of Hashirama cells. The initial red glow began to dim as it successfully attached to his body. At the same time, the pale white arm began to regain color, gradually matching Sasuke's skin tone all the way to the fingertips. Observing the process, Orochimaru couldn't help but think, this is truly groundbreaking. I need to conduct further research on these phoenix tears. Sasuke examined his arm closely, finding it seamless and appearing as if it had never been missing. He began to wiggle his fingers, readjusting to the movements. He then waved his hand around and clenched his fist. It feels normal, he muttered. Karin, filled with joy, commented, it looks like you never lost an arm. Sasuke responded agreeing with AHN while continuing to test his arm's mobility. Getting up from the medical bed, Sasuke instructed, you can get everything ready to leave tomorrow. I will bring my family first and then come back. Orochimaru, fully immersed in his research, waved his hand dismissively, saying, yes, I will be waiting then. Sasuke turned to Karin and playfully poked her forehead, saying, I'll be back for you. Karin blushed and replied, okay. Sasuke vanished in a mist and reappeared in the room where his family was waiting. Materializing before them, he saw everyone's eyes fixed on his new arm. Sasuke asked, are you ready? Mikoto walked up to Sasuke and carefully grabbed his arm. Concerned, she asked, how does it feel, Sasuke? Are you experiencing any discomfort? Sasuke's eyes softened upon hearing his mother's concern. He waved his arm around and reassured her, it feels as good as new. Sasuke then walked to the magic circle and said, well, Amaterasu will have to look at your condition before you regain your bodies. This will be the first time she is doing this, so it will not be instant. Minato said, do not feel any pressure, Sasuke. Kushina and I agreed, we would fix the issue related to transporting between worlds before we meet Naruto. At the same time, we decided we would be staying in the Whirlpool village. Sasuke breathed a sigh of relief, responding, I assume you will set up the magic circle there. We can also implement blood recognition for added security. Kushina agreed, saying, as much as I want to see Naruto right away, you have given us the opportunity to reunite with our son. We will prioritize resolving this issue first. Mikoto, moved by her friend's words, embraced Kushina and said, thank you, Kushina. With this, we will be able to see each other whenever we want. Kushina nodded enthusiastically, adding, I would go insane if I had only Minato to talk to. Minato felt a twinge in his heart, and everyone chuckled at his expense. Sasuke focused his chakra into his Rain Sharingan, observing the spatial channels that formed around the magic circle. He then created a portal hovering above the circle, and a translucent portal appeared, revealing a new room on the other side. With a smile on his face, Sasuke's heart raced as he thought, I can finally see Yasaka again. He gestured for everyone to step through the portal, assuring them, you practically have immortal bodies, thanks to the jutsu. But rest assured, crossing over will be safe. No need to worry. Mikoto and Fugaku exchanged glances and nodded before stepping through the portal, entering the new room. Itaki and Izumi followed suit, followed by Minato and Kushina. Shisui looked at Sasuke expectantly, and Sasuke responded with a deadpan expression, saying, hell no. I am taken, so go on your own. Shisui playfully insisted, come on, Sasuke. Let us go through as your senpai. Sasuke rolled his eyes and reluctantly agreed, fine. They both entered the portal, joining everyone else in the room located in the DxD world. Sasuke observed everyone and felt relieved to see that everyone was okay. With a hint of excitement in his voice, he greeted them, welcome to the new world. Suddenly, Sasuke sensed someone behind him and felt a warm embrace. He turned around and saw Yasaka. A smile formed on his face as he said, I'm back, Yasaka. Yasaka, had Alrizi sensed Sasuke's arrival, she eagerly made her way to him and hugged him tightly. Nuzzling her head against his chest, she expressed, I really missed you. Sasuke replied, me too, and everything went well. Sasuke released the hug, his cheeks slightly reddening as he remembered his family's presence. He struggled to find the right words when Yasaka interjected, happily introducing herself, hello, Sasuke's family. I am Yasaka, Sasuke's lover. Feeling relieved, Sasuke added, this is Yasaka. She saved me when I arrived in this world. She is also the leader of the yokai faction. As I mentioned before, there are many different beings in this world. She is actually a nine-tailed fox. Sasuke noticed his mother's joyful expression and the proud expressions on the faces of the men in the room. Perplexed by their reactions, he thought, what's with their response? Mikoto approached Yasaka and clapped her hands together, saying, you are so beautiful, Yasaka. Thank you for saving Sasuke. I hope he didn't give you too much trouble. Sasuke rolled his eyes and walked over to his father and brother. Fugaku praised him, saying, you did well, son. Itaka nodded in agreement. Sasuke, still confused by their reactions to Yasaka, suddenly widened his eyes, realizing they were in awe of Yasaka's beauty and proud of him. Chuckling at his own slowness, he said, when I first saw her, she reminded me a lot of mother. I knew she would be a good person who would also get along well with all of you. Fugaku nodded and went to introduce himself to his new daughter-in-law. Sasuke glanced at Shisui and playfully remarked, a new world. I wonder how long your single life will last. Shisui clicked his tongue, as it seemed everyone wanted him to find a wife. I will definitely find someone here, he thought. Sasuke observed that his parents and everyone else had no issue with Yasaka being a nine-tailed fox. He had worried about her being accepted as a non-human, but those concerns proved to be unnecessary. A/N, took a while, but Sasuke will finally interact with other DxD characters soon. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 40, Meeting Amaterasu. Sasuke approached Yasaka, who was engaged in conversation with his parents. He playfully asked her, are you skipping your duties as a leader, Yasaka? Yasaka smiled and chuckled, hee, maybe. Sasuke was a little speechless and, amused by her shamelessness. Yasaka then clarified, happily stating, I have learned the shadow clone jutsu. Sasuke was astonished that she had mastered it in just a few days. It seems you have great talent for ninjutsu, he commented. Yasaka explained further, I have a clone doing all the paperwork. I have been staying in the room next door, waiting for you. She added lovingly, I really missed you. Sasuke, feeling the same way, hugged her tightly. Do you feel anything different? He asked. Meanwhile, his parents had already left them, giving them their own private moment. Yasaka pondered for a moment before returning his hug and feeling his warmth. She breathed in his scent and held him even tighter, cherishing these precious moments. Then, she glanced up at Sasuke, meeting his pitch-black eyes. To others, these eyes might seem devoid of emotion, but she knew they were filled with love. I love you, she declared. Sasuke replied, I love you, too. Yasaka giggled and asked, did you get your arm back? Sasuke kissed her forehead and leaned in close to her ear, speaking in a seductive tone, I did. I hope you are looking forward to tonight. Yasaka blushed, feeling a rush of warmth as she felt Sasuke's breath against her ear. She softly replied, I cannot wait. Sasuke then composed himself and turned back to face everyone else. Unconcerned about his previous actions, he declared, let's show you around. This will be our temporary home. Leaving the room, Yasaka led Sasuke's family, Minato and Kushina around her home. Sasuke trailed behind, using his mana to create a communication magic circle. Hello, Sasuke, greeted Amaterasu with a cheerful tone. Sasuke raised an eyebrow and asked, you seem rather happy. Amaterasu chuckled and replied, Mao, can't a goddess be happy? Sasuke didn't comment further and added, I have brought back my family. You can come when you are ready. Amaterasu quickly responded, yes, I'll come now. Inwardly, she was eager to help Sasuke, especially after her conversation with Yasaka. She didn't want to miss her chance to be with Sasuke, particularly when the God's Summit took place. She knew that many women would pursue him later, which annoyed her that these vixens would try to get close to him. Sasuke ended the call with Amaterasu and rejoined his family. He informed them, "Amaterasu will be coming now." Yasaka's ears perked up, fully aware of what was going on with the goddess. She had a sly smile and said, "Let's go to the living room and wait for her there." Mikoto, happy with her daughter-in-law, expressed her admiration for Yasaka's home, saying, "Your home is so beautiful, Yasaka. I'm a bit envious." Itaki and Sasuke rolled their eyes, knowing that the home was essentially the same as the one they had lived in. A few minutes passed, and they were all seated in the living room, engaged in conversation. Yasaka curiously asked, "What is it like being in your current state?" Everyone took a moment to gather their thoughts. Shisui was the first to respond, saying, "I can't recall anything from the Pure Land. My memories jump straight from my life to the Naka River." Itaka chimed in, "This isn't my first time experiencing this state. My body feels exactly as it did when I was alive, with the exception that I have unlimited chakra and can't perform the daily necessities of a normal person." Kushina pouted and exclaimed, "Yeah, I really want to eat Ichiraku ramen, but eating food is impossible in this state." Mikoto added, "I also miss the joy of eating delicious food." Izumi nodded in agreement with her mother-in-law. Suddenly, in the center of the room, a magic circle appeared, and Amaterasu gracefully stepped out, radiating her usual glow. Everyone, except for Yasaka and Sasuke, regarded her with caution. Their instincts told them that this person could be a formidable foe. Itaki raised an eyebrow and thought, so this is what Sasuke meant by the connection we have to this person. Amaterasu spoke gently and introduced herself, saying, "I am Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun and the chief god of the Shinto pantheon." One by one, each person in the room introduced themselves, recognizing Amaterasu as their benefactor. They treated her with respect, knowing that she played a significant role in their return to life. Amaterasu's eyes focused on Sasuke, and she remarked, "You have brought back some remarkably strong individuals, Sasuke." She chuckled, anticipating the reactions of the supernatural world to their presence. Narrowing her eyes, she added, "It appears that your clan possesses a faint divinity in their eyes, particularly connected to the Shinto pantheon." Sasuke raised an eyebrow and replied, "I see. This will work to our advantage in blending into this world more easily." Amaterasu felt grateful for the presence of these individuals who would help protect her believers. With the emergence of the Chaos Brigade and the ensuing chaos in the supernatural world, having these individuals with divine connections would be crucial. She had already been displeased by the reincarnation of Japanese citizens as devils and their subsequent killings for possessing sacred gears. Amaterasu pushing away the thought of relating to those devils and fallen angels, she knew at least the angels were allies to them. Her pantheon definitely did not mind, when crutches were opened up. She then realized, that Gabriel should visit her and Yasaka soon. She smiled, remembering that the angel had remained pure and aloof, since they first met. Amaterasu decided to get to business, and she spoke, "Since you have told me about reviving your family, I was skeptical, but I still took some time to research turning their vessels back to life. I do have to admit, this technique is really scary if the supernatural world knows about it." Sasuke nodded, "Yeah, the person who created was a genius when it came to creating jutsus." He then narrowed his eyes and seriously spoke, "But I hope you keep your promise. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 41, Chapter 41, Hi humans? Amaterasu quickly waved her hand dismissively and said, "Yes, no one besides the people in this room knows about this technique." Mikoto turned to Sasuke and gently advised him, "Son, you don't need to scare her so much. Sasuke gave his mother a gentle smile and replied, I know, mother. She has helped me a lot, and I don't mind helping to protect her believers. Mikoto patted Sasuke's back and expressed her gratitude, saying, I'm glad that despite the connection to our clan, she has a calming aura. She is truly helping us tremendously. Fugaku joined the conversation and voiced his agreement, I agree with Mikoto. Even my Manjikyu abilities seem to be connected to her. I trust your judgment, Sasuke. You have grown into a splendid adult and shinobi, even in the absence of Mikoto and me. Sasuke opened his eyes in surprise and said, I didn't know you had the Manjikyu Sharingan, Dad. Itaka chimed in, I never told you either. I only found out because father informed me, and even I was shocked. Shisui added, so the clan head also possessed the Manjikyu Sharingan. It seems the Konoha and Uchiha elders were definitely unaware of it. Fugaku sighed and lamented, yes, if they had known, the clansmen would have wanted me to control Naruto. It was already difficult to protect him secretly and be a good uncle. Mikoto and I had even wanted to adopt him, but the third Hokage denied it. Kushina's eyes welled up with tears as she muttered, how dare that old man deny my son from being adopted. She clenched her fists in anger, overwhelmed by the memories of the suffering Naruto had endured as a child and the immense hatred he had faced. Minato comfortingly patted Kushina's back and expressed his remorse, saying, I am sorry, Kushina. This is all my fault. Our son had to endure such a rough childhood. Everyone remained silent as Kushina calmed her emotions. She spoke, I am sorry, Amaterasu-sama, you saw me in such an ugly state, you can continue. Amaterasu responded gently, no need for formalities. You are just a mother who wants the best for her child. I will help you regain your body so you can see your child. Kushina wiped away her tears and expressed her gratitude, saying, thank you. My Nara will really appreciate it, and I'll make sure to tell him that you're his benefactor. If you need to, you can tell Sasuke to contact him. Sasuke raised an eyebrow in curiosity and said, I see. If he doesn't mind, then. He turned to Amaterasu, and added, Naruto is the only one who can rival me in strength, though not in smarts. Kushina playfully punched Sasuke's arm and asked, what do you mean, Sasuke? Sasuke inwardly cursed, realizing his slip-up. He quickly replied, I mean, he takes after both you and Minato in terms of talent. He learned the Raise Nan in just a week. Kushina laughed heartily and responded, of course. My son is a genius. Look, Minato, he learned your jutsu so quickly. Kushina softly muttered, I hope he did not inherit you naming sense. Amaterasu then spoke, since I've arrived, I've examined your condition. However, I will need to observe your physical body to confirm some of my theories in healing you. Sasuke gestured for his mother to come forward. Mikoto sat down next to Amaterasu, who took her arm and infused her divinity throughout Mikoto's body. Amaterasu smiled gently as she observed Mikoto's body, appearing quite shocked at what she discovered. Sasuke, noticing Amaterasu's reaction, asked, is something wrong? She turned to him and replied, no, her body is perfect. In fact, it's beyond human standards. It's close to crossing the boundary of high humans. Confusion filled Sasuke and everyone else in the room as he probed for more information. Amaterasu released Mikoto's hand and took a moment to gather her thoughts. Before humans even existed, it was just us gods and goddesses, along with the primordials. The biblical God was the first to create humans, although they were different from the current humans. They were high humans, with almost immortal lifespans and exceptional strength and speed, Amaterasu explained. She continued, you see, other pantheons tried to replicate high humans, but they were never successful. High humans were the perfect form of being human. Amaterasu looked back at Mikoto and said, based on my investigation into your mother's state, the jutsu used has made her body close to that of a high human. The fact that their bodies are immortal is likely the reason why. Itaka processed the information and asked, "So you're saying that when we come back to life, our bodies will no longer be ordinary humans but will resemble high humans? What about our lifespans? We will outlive Sasuke." Sasuke reassured his brother, saying, "You don't need to worry, Itaka. Amaterasu and I already have a solution for me. I will become a demigod." Yasaka interjected, "What? You never told me about this." She then calmed down and asked, "Were you worried about me?" Sasuke replied gently, "Yes, this is the safest way. I will gain Amaterasu's blessing and ascend." Sasuke then turned to Minato and Kushina and said, "There are ways to increase Naruto's lifespan. We are closest to being the Sage of Six Paths. Naruto already possesses the Sage's body, so fixing this issue will be easy for him." Kushina calmed down and responded, "I see, but living a long life is everyone's dream. I'm just shocked that we have this opportunity." Mikoto added, "I'm not sure how to feel about living a long life. Since most beings here have long lifespans, I suppose we won't have to face the pain of watching our loved ones die." Shisui sighed with relief and said, This is kind of scary, but at least the people close to me won't have issues with lifespan." After the issue related to lifespan, Amaterasu continued and spoke, "Now that I know the issue related to their inanimate bodies," she placed her hand under her chin and added, "In a week, I should have a technique to bring your body back to life." Sasuke bowed slightly and said, "Thank you for your assistance, Amaterasu." She nodded and replied, "No problem, I am glad to help a friend." Sasuke hummed in acknowledgement, thinking, "She is right, I do consider her someone close to me. Since then, I have known her for 2 years, when I was at the lowest point of my life." A/N, check auxiliary chapter for harem member of Sasuke, Itaka, and Shisui. Enjoying the story? You can support me by giving reviews, comments and power stones. Also check out my other story Naruto, Yukari Otsutsuki Adventure. Chapter 42, Chapter 42, Longing R18. After finishing their conversation with Amaterasu, Sasuke and Yasaka returned to their room. He left his family to allow them to process the new information they had learned, particularly about becoming high humans. As they entered the room, Yasaka grabbed Sasuke's hand and pulled him into an embrace. She muttered softly, "I really missed you, Sasuke. The past 2 years have been the most enjoyable period of my life." Sasuke smiled gently and placed his hand on Yasaka's cheek. Yasaka nuzzled into Sasuke's hand, while Sasuke replied, "We will not be apart anymore." Sasuke then brought Yasaka's face closer to his. He could feel her warm breath against his lips as he leaned in, their eyes locking in a passionate gaze. Slowly, Sasuke closed the distance between them and gently kissed Yasaka with all the love he had for her. Yasaka embraced Sasuke tightly as she passionately responded to Sasuke's kiss. Sasuke, now with 2 arms, pulled Yasaka closer to him, deepening their embrace. Their bodies pressed against each other, the heat between them intensifying. His hand trailed from her cheek to her neck, as they continued to kiss. Sasuke lifted Yasaka up, and Yasaka made an eep sound as she looked into Sasuke's eyes. He had a smirk on his face, and he brought her to their bed. Yasaka removed her kimono, giving Sasuke an entire view of her naked body. "You look beautiful, Yasaka," said Sasuke. He removed all his clothes and hovered over Yasaka's body. Sasuke's lips found her neck, leaving a trail of heated kisses as he made his way down to her chest. He fondled her breasts, eliciting soft moans from Yasaka, who arched her back in pleasure. Sasuke, I know you love my boobs, you can do whatever you want with it," Yasaka mentioned in gasps. His desire grew stronger, hearing Yasaka's approval. He began to suck on her left nipple and gaze into Yasaka's eyes, as he glided his hands under her ass and fondled her other breast. Yasaka felt Sasuke erection against her thigh. She smirked and began to glide her hands and tease Sasuke's erection. Sasuke then felt Yasaka's soft hand embrace his cock. She began to stroke it. Yasaka then said lustfully, "Would you like more?" Yasaka, not waiting for Sasuke's response, made her way to Sasuke's dick. "I have always wanted to do this for you," Yasaka said. Yasaka lewdly stared at Sasuke's cock in front of her. She couldn't resist and placed a soft kiss on the tip of it, eliciting a soft grunt. She thought, "I want to hear more of his grunts." She opened her mouth and glided her tongue at the tip of his cock, began to swirl her tongue around his cock, and made her way slowly to the shaft. She could hear Sasuke's breathing become louder. "You taste so good, Sasuke. I want to make you feel even better." Yasaka opened her mouth, and her hot breath bathed Sasuke's cock. She then lowered her head and took his erection into her mouth. She began to move her head up and down, swirling her tongue, as she gave Sasuke a blowjob. Sasuke felt Yasaka's hot breath and soft tongue glide along his shaft, and he felt his orgasm nearing. "Yasaka, I am close," he muttered. Yasaka, hearing Sasuke close to coming, began to quicken her pace. As Yasaka continued to bob her head and suck on Sasuke's member, she could feel him twitch inside her mouth. Without hesitation, she eagerly took him deeper, pushing him to the edge of release. Suddenly, Sasuke let out a deep grunt as his orgasm overwhelmed him, releasing his seed into Yasaka's mouth. She skillfully swallowed every last drop, savoring the taste as she glanced up at Sasuke, and with a pop sound, she grinned at Sasuke. "Are you not going to praise me, Sasuke?"